see the wonder of a fairy tale. You can take the future, even if you fail. I believe in angels, something good in everything I see. I believe in angels. When I know the time is right for me, I'll cross the street. I have a dream. I have a dream, a fantasy to help me through reality. And my destination makes it worthwhile, pushing through the darkness, still another mile. I believe in angels, something good in everything I see. I believe in angels. When I know the time is right for me, I'll cross the street. I have a dream. I'll cross the street. I have a dream.
India's new education policy and Nipun Bharat mission have given the highest importance to foundational literacy and numeracy. The classic problem in education has been speed, the speed of learning. Even after 3 years of schooling, most children do not know how to read, write, or do basic numeracy. Without these skills, children lag behind and eventually lose interest. But there is a new disruptive research-based pedagogy that is making a huge difference. ALfA, or Accelerating Learning for All. ALfA has shown it is possible to make children learn foundational skills within months and not years. Oral reading fluency follows from the ability to read in the first place. ALfA pedagogy has been incorporated in the Global Dream Toolkit, an online learning app called Literacy Now. Lessons are broken down into half-page modules. Children work in pairs. The children take turns to ask questions from each other and answer them. The teacher does not teach. Instead, the teacher reads out the prompts which tell the children what their task is.
उसी में के क्वेश्चन है इसमें, ठीक? दो लोग बैठे हो, एक जना क्वेश्चन पढ़ेगा और दूसरा उसका क्या देगा?
The results from this process led transformation is that learning explodes. It is also a joyful learning process. Global Dream Toolkits are now available in 15 Indian languages. They can easily be replicated in other languages. ALfA has begun to be implemented in many states and districts of India. We are now working in 2 of the 10 low performing districts of India as identified by the Ministry of Education. These are Shamli in Uttar Pradesh and Sambalpur in Orissa. The goal is to bring the results in these two districts up before the next National Achievement Survey in March 2023. We are taking the challenge up. We have also begun work in Jharkhand and Mizoram, among others. Our target is making the ALfA pedagogy the modus of teaching in the future so that it becomes an integral and systemic part of education by which every child learns.
आप सभी को नमस्कार।
And we use the method, the 3S of teaching. It is Sawal, Samay and Sambandh. Sawal means we ask the learner questions so that they can pick up the things at their own pace. The second is Samay, we give them plenty of time. And the third is Sambandh, we keep a friendly relationship with the children.
Then we follow the FLN, that is foundational literacy and numeracy. In this, we follow the reverse method of teaching.
We are adopting LSRW. This stands for listening, speaking, reading, and then writing. We make sure that writing is the last part.
अच्छा अनुभव रहा ग्लोबल टीम के साथ.
It's a very nice project that is initiated by Smita Gandhi ji.
I am very pleased to say Global Dream campaign to spread literacy.
शिक्षा जो है ये मनुष्य के लिए वरदान है.
Learners of the school can go to them and can teach them or can make them educated.
Warm greetings and Jai Jagat to one and all. Education is a worldwide emergency and urgent action is required today, not tomorrow. Therefore, today we join hands with all to work together towards ensuring foundational literacy and numeracy for all children, and to do it in months, not years and decades, by using disruptive methods which have been used to learn quickly. There is no education without foundational skills. So let us step up the act of making everyone literate together. And in doing so, let's make FLN universal. Let us feel free to communicate and interact with each other, pondering over disruptive FLN, foundational literacy and numeracy, along with greening of education. With this thought in mind, I would like to welcome our esteemed guests, our management, all the participants from the 45 plus countries and 27 states of India to the massive open online training being held to enhance teachers' motivation and practical skills to accelerate FLN. We accord a very warm welcome to the founder, Devi Sansthan, a former economist, the World Bank USA, PhD from Cambridge University, UK, Chief Advisor, Academics, City Montessori School, Lucknow, the world's largest school. The lady herself, who gave a deep thought to education for all and introduced us to this beautiful program. Let us hear from Dr. Sunita Gandhi.
Dear teachers, educators, principals, directors of schools, enthusiasts about education, we're very happy to welcome you today to this session on literacy, FLN, foundation literacy, which is the very foundation of learning. When children have the skill to read and write in their own language first, then in other languages, this becomes their ticket to ride. This becomes their most amazing accomplishment they need to have, and the fundamentals they need to have in order to scaffold the rest of their learning and their own future. It is said many a times that when a child can learn to read, they can then read to learn. And it's so apt. However, unfortunately, we find that in the world at large, many children are deprived of this very fundamental, basic capacity to read. While learning to speak is a natural, and we learn it all without anyone teaching us, we cannot learn to read without anyone teaching us. The problem is not just in developing countries or the low-income countries and Middle East countries. The problem is even in the developed countries. Recently, a New York Times report shared that 2/3 of grade 4 students in the United States of America cannot read at the grade level. Why is that? Why is the world not able to figure out a way for everyone to read? We can read, we were taught, and we managed. But why is it that majority of the children are managing? Is it them or is it the system? And I'd say that we were lucky because we got to a private school. Maybe that's one reason. We continued with our education. We had parents who supported our education, who could afford the time to give us. So many reasons why we succeeded. What about those children in the slums whose parents have to work for a living? The children have to work for a living. Do they not have a right to learn and to read? Everyone can read. This is clear. But everyone is not reading is also clear. When we look at what's going on, I think we can say that majority of the world is learning through what's called whole language approach. And the whole language approach is based on A se anar, Ka se kamal, A for apple, B for boy, C for cat, and we learn the alphabet in the rote way. A is unknown, B is unknown to the known. Maybe I recognize C for cat, I recognize a cat, but it's definitely unknown to the known. When we do phonics, which is the other method, if we divide the whole range of ways in which children learn to read, they can be brought into two broad categories. One is whole language, and the other is phonics. So there are many schools of thought within phonics. They call it the phonics wars. And there are many people who have a slightly different or vastly different approach to whole language. The basic difference being that one is based on the idea that whatever you're saying, you can read. So it's whole language. So read from the beginning what you're going to read anyway or say anyway. And the others based on the idea, no, actually there are definite improvements to be seen if you learn phonetically. That is, if we can break the sound to its component parts, that somehow we are reading a lot better and a lot faster. And research seems to support the phonics approach by and large. There are certain approaches in phonics that don't work as well as some others. So having said that, phonics would be a good idea, more than, say, a whole language. We have done one more take on it, which we're calling ALfA. ALfA is even more different because though it uses phonics to us would mean sounds. It uses blending of sounds to make words. But in essence, it's a known to unknown process. And what that means is that the children are going from known objects in their own mother tongue and then going to the unknown, which might be the letter. But that process is also based on 3 knowns and 1 unknown. And that really reinforces their knowledge. So in the phonics approach, for example, you will say B says ba. So B is unknown and ba is unknown. It cannot be derived from B. So B and ba both are unknown. While in the ALfA approach, we will show you a picture, say, of a boy or a bat. And we'll ask the child, what is this? And the child can tell because the child is probably familiar with it. And that's in his own language. And if for some reason the child doesn't know that, it doesn't take him a very long amount of time to understand that this particular object he's looking at is called a boy. But it has to be in their own language. So today we are teaching in English, but it's not about English. It's not about teaching of English. It's about teaching of language. In any language, you can teach to read using this particular methodology, this particular process called ALfA, Accelerating Learning for All, which is what we are going to be sharing with you. So this child, can decode and say, okay, I know this picture. This is a picture of a boy. Now, next question we ask is, what is its first sound? That also the child knows because, and especially if you break it down for him, ba, o, e, boy, right? Boy. So basically he can see, okay, the first sound is ba. And he can tell you that the first sound is ba. Then comes another picture maybe, and let's say that's a picture of an apple. So you ask, what is this? The child says, that's apple. What is the first sound of apple? The child will say, ah, right? And let's say the next picture is a goat, and you ask, what is this? The child says, a goat. And you say, what is the first sound of goat? So the child says, ga. So, okay, now you add the 3 sounds, what do you get? Till now, there's nothing unknown, nothing at all unknown. The child will say, ba, a, ga, and they say, what does it make? Bag. All of this the child can do without being taught the letter A, B, C, D. So we don't even teach A, B, C, D. We go straight to words. We go straight to decoding words and blending of those sounds. The child is seeing the letters which are written as sound symbols. So he's seeing the B and the A and the G, but he's not being taught that's a B and an A and a G. Is being taught as a sound symbol. It's ba, a, ga. So the child starts to recognize those unknown symbols, which is the 4th thing, which is the unknown part, as sound symbols. Now, what in our experimental approach we found is that children very quickly go from that known to the unknown in record time. We didn't know that a priori. So when we started researching, we saw that the children could blend and make these words, and we didn't need to teach them the letters. Now the letters come without the pictures, same letters. You mix them in different order. We give 3 words to begin with, or 5 words to begin with. And in those 3 or 5 words, there might be 5, 6, 8, 10 letters, depending on the language. Now, those letters, they've just seen with the picture and the sound. Now you've got these sounds at the bottom with words that are made from those sounds. That are not the words in the upper part, right? So, for example, if you have a mat and a bag, what words can you make? A bag, right? And some nonsensical words like gam, some sensible words. So the child is able to take those 6 individual letters, of which A is common, so there's only 5, and we give them any other words made with these 5 letters, and they can actually read them without the pictures. And how long does it take to go from the first to the second step? It's just a matter of minutes. And they're reading those words. So when we do all the letters of the alphabet, let's say for English, it is on 5 pages, 3 words per page. That's just 15 words, of which 1 word is queen. That's the only non-3-letter word in which we have to explain that this is queen, but it's not to be phonetically broken down. It's a sight word. Just with those many words, they are able to understand the letters in a backward way, and they can read, by this time, they can read about 200 3-letter words. In the next 5 or 10 days, they're mastering all that. They can read a lot more. We introduce a few sight words, as you will see in the process. And then after that, they're reading full text. Within a month, in majority of the places where we've taken in different languages, the program is available in 31 languages at the moment. And we request your support in making them better. In your own context, you can apply them. Refinement is necessary. We revised the Hindi one 11 times. So it's entirely possible to make it better. Anyway, so the essence of it is that using these new methods, ALfA, Accelerating Learning for All, we find that it is possible to make children literate and capable of reading a newspaper in just 30 days. And some of the children can read in 20 days. What I want to say is that we need to be circumspect a little more about what ways we teach. We need to be open to other possibilities. And we are making ALfA available to the world as a gift from our side, from Devi Sansthan, from all of us here, so that the world can become literate quickly. The challenge is 45 days. So we've done a lot of experimental work. We've also done a lot of now large-scale implementations. We were given from the Ministry of Education last year in 2022. We were given 2 low-performing districts of India, one in Shamli in Uttar Pradesh, and one Sambalpur in Odisha. And these are low-performing districts of India that the ministry wanted them to turn around. And I think we've been able to turn around these districts. The work has been written up by students of Harvard Graduate School of Education. We'll share that data with you. We've done an RCT, a randomized control trial. And the program, most importantly, because it's being liked by the leaders, has expanded from 20 schools in Shamli to, in one district of Shamli, to 15 districts of the most populated state of India, Uttar Pradesh. And that has happened all within 5 months of time. So 45 days is not a long time to understand whether it's having a result. And we're only asking for 1 period a day. So if you look at your whole year, this represents something like 5% of your academic time, but one which could leverage the rest of learning. What is coming out of the field is really exciting. And you will hear from our co-convener, Samvida Adhikari ma'am, who's also the principal of one of the campuses of City Montessori School that has been implementing this change as of November this year. And in 39 days, what results have been accomplished, she will share with you. So it is exciting. It is a totally different way of conducting our learning. So if somebody tells you, can you make your mobile phone and your landline phone, can you bring elements of the mobile phone into your landline phone? You can't. They're 2 distinct technologies, right? So the landline phone of education, we know very well. We keep tinkering, we keep improving, we keep adding to it. We even do, we do a lot of paired work in ALfA. So we do that in the old classroom context as well, whole language approaches, any approach. We do a lot of think, pair, share. There's pairing, there's group work. There's a lot of, you see elements that are similar. You even see phonics, the word being used. But in reality, it's all very different. So in reality, this also has certain elements like your mobile phone. You can talk on it. You can say, oh, it's similar to the landline phone. You try and convince an old grandmother, at least a few years ago, if you tried to convince her that please take this mobile phone, she'll say, no, don't waste your money. Why waste 15,000 rupees? Take it away. I just need to call a few people. Then you leave it with her for 3 months and come back. And by this time, your sister has taught you how to use that mobile. And you say, can I have my mobile back? She said, no, please wait. Let me give you 17,000. You have this, she'll tell you now the benefits of it. You try and convince her earlier, you say, it can have a camera in it. She says, well, I have a camera. Look, your grandpa just bought a camera. You say that it has a music system. Well, look, there's a music system right there. It has internet. Well, there's a computer right there. She'll tell you million reasons why she doesn't want it. And then when you come back, she says, oh, you know, it's really nice. It remembers the last number. She'll tell you benefits you had not been able to convince of earlier. So this is what ALfA is all about. I think ALfA is a new pedagogy in education, which needs to be seen from a new eye, right? When a new thing is introduced, you cannot be convinced easily unless you try it. And Tom keeps reminding us, पहले इस्तेमाल करें, फिर विश्वास करें. First, use it, and then trust it. So we say you use it. And we're asking you to use it only for how many days? 45 days. That's all. One period a day. And please do not mix at that time for that particular subject. Do not mix the pedagogies. That's our request to you, because you'll get mixed results. And you can't say, oh, it was because of some other thing or because of this. So purely try it out. And just learn today. At the end of this, this training, 3.5-hour training, in which we're hoping to convert your thought process, number one. Number two, equip you with real skills that you can take back to your classes tomorrow, and Monday you can start teaching them in this particular way. So we can also give you the materials. Everything is for free, and we'll give it to you on a platform. If you fill the quiz at the end of it, those who get to the quiz and finish it, they get a certificate. Certificate is given of participation if you get at least 50% marks, 50% correct of 9 or 10 questions. That's all. And then you get also some opinion questions in it. And if you get 80% and above, opinion questions are not marked. They're just opinions. If you get 80% and above, you get a certificate of accomplishment. But more importantly, we want to know that you're serious about it and you would like to actually hear us out, number one. Number two, whether you like to implement it in your classes, in which case we'll be very, very happy to provide you our methods, approaches, and the materials. We would very much like also there to be some kind of a connection with you after this training. So if you can post to us your videos and your photos, you will see some evidence later on of a set of schools in Shamli and their classroom, what's going on. And this is all made with the videos that the children and the teachers took. It's not professionals going there and taking a video. Please share your videos, and we can then share your videos with many more people across the world. So I think I can say there is a problem out there. There is a solution for it. It's not just 5%, 10% improvement on something that's going on already. It is something of a paradigm shift. It is 10 times faster, 45 days versus 3 years to 5 years it takes to make majority of the children ready to read. We took 3 years or more. There are many children in class 4 that cannot do matras, even after 3 years of learning in school. Here we are saying in 45 days they can read matras, and not just that, they can read newspapers. So it's going to be left to your introspection. And henceforth I hand over to Tom. Tom is our youth volunteer, and we invite youth to be a part of this process. We invite everyone to become a trainer for ALfA and take this mission forward in a bigger way. And Tom has done so. He has become our master trainer, and now he's educating the world about these new and wonderful techniques. So I hand over to him, and actually to the co-convener, Samida Adhikari, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, for bringing to light the essence of this program. Our behavior is fueled by 3 main sources: desire, emotion, and knowledge. Knowledge is the treasure of a wise man. It is power. All our activities should be governed by the light of knowledge. Let us light the lamp of light, which we very fondly call the lamp of learning, to spread its radiance far and wide, followed by a speech from the Honorable Defense Minister of India, Shri Rajnath Singh Ji.
May this light spread far all over the world for peace and harmony. May the Lord keep this light always burning forever and ever. May this light spread far peace and harmony.
आप सभी को मेरा नमस्कार। जब मुझे पता चला कि सुश्री गांधी शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में ऐसे प्रयास कर रही हैं, तो मुझे व्यक्तिगत रूप से बेहद खुशी हुई। देवी संस्थान परिवार के सभी सदस्यों, परिवार की मुखिया सुश्री सुनीता गांधी जी को अपनी हार्दिक बधाई और शुभकामनाएं देता हूँ। ये पैराडाइम शिफ्ट इन FLN, हाउ टू मेक इंडिया फाउंडेशनली लिटरेट एंड न्यूमरेट इन मंथ्स नॉट ईयर्स, निश्चित ही आज के समय में बड़ा रिलेवेंट है। फाउंडेशनल लिटरेसी एक क्यू ह्यूमन राइट है। यह इंडिविजुअल से लेकर सोशल, नेशनल और इंटरनेशनल लेवल तक सोशियो इकोनॉमिक ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन के सबसे महत्वपूर्ण एलिमेंट में से एक है। हमें ऐसे प्रयासों की जरूरत है जो फाउंडेशनल लिटरेसी को न केवल प्री पैंडेमिक स्थिति में बल्कि उससे कहीं ऊपर हमें पहुंचा सके। इस दिशा में मैं सुनीता गांधी जी को उनके कंसेप्ट और प्रोग्राम एक्सेलरेटिंग लर्निंग फॉर ऑल अथवा ALfA के लिए बधाई देना चाहूंगा, जो आप देश के विभिन्न हिस्सों में संचालित कर रही हैं। साथियों, इस प्रोग्राम के माध्यम से लोगों को 90 डेज में लिटरेट बनाया जा सकता है। मैं आशा करता हूं कि आने वाले समय में बड़ी संख्या में लोग इससे जुड़ेंगे और इसे सपोर्ट करने के लिए आगे आएंगे। यहां मैं एक और बात को रेखांकित करना चाहूंगा कि अगर पैंडेमिक ने हमारी अब तक चली आ रही शिक्षा व्यवस्था को डिसरप्ट करने का कार्य किया है, तो उससे उबरने के लिए भी हमको डिसरप्टिव टेक्नोलॉजीज का प्रयोग कर डिसरप्टिव लर्निंग और लिटरेसी की ओर आगे बढ़ना होगा। यह हमें ध्यान में रखना चाहिए। ऐसे में डिसरप्टिव लर्निंग की ओर ध्यान देना और उसे बढ़ावा देना आज की यह महत्वपूर्ण जरूरत है। यहां मैं सुश्री सुनीता गांधी की एक पुस्तक डिसरप्टिव लिटरेसी, ए रोड मैप फॉर अर्जेंट ग्लोबल एक्शन के लॉन्च के लिए भी उनको बधाई देता हूं।
Sir, for sharing your valuable ideas towards building literacy and numeracy to bridge misery to hope, and blessings for the initiative. Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. Our prayers do make a difference, so let us make this difference and uplift the consciousness of the world by means of prayer. Please close your eyes and join your hands into the invisible and feel the blessings of God reaching back.
I testify at this moment to my powerlessness and to thy might, to my poverty and to thy will. There is none other God but thee, thy love imperil, the self-subsisting.
Music, once admitted to the soul, becomes a spirit and never dies. Hope is the strength by which a shattered world shall emerge into the light. This song brings out the beauty of light in darkness, the beauty of hope, the beauty of believing through music. Now we have the choir of the Cambridge section with the song, When You Believe.
Many nights we've prayed with no proof anyone mind could hear. In our hearts a hopeful song we barely understood. Now we are not afraid, although we know there's much to fear. We were moving mountains long before we knew we could. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve? When you believe, somehow you will. Ah, you will when you believe. In this time of fear, when prayer so often proves in vain, hope seems like this summer bird to swiftly flown away.
And now I'm standing here, my heart so full I can't explain.
Seeking faith and speaking words I never thought I'd say. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve? When you believe, somehow you will. Ah, you will when you Ashira Ladunai Kigoha. Ashira Ladunai Kigoha. Micha mukabeli Adonai, micha mukanela, hakodesh nahita v'chastaka, amzugalata, nahita v'chastaka, amzugalata, Ashira, 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 Ashira Adonai Kigoha, Ashira Adonai Kigoha, micha mukabeli Adonai, micha mukaneda, hakodesh nahita v'chastaka, amzugalata, nahita v'chastaka, amzugalata, Ashira, Ashira, Ashira. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve? When you believe, somehow you will. Ah, you will when you believe.
Mother Teresa beautifully said, and I quote, I used to believe the prayer changes things, but now I know that prayer changes us and we change things. With these words in mind, let us start the proceedings of the conference to bring about a change and accelerate learning for all. We once again welcome all the participants from 45 plus countries and 27 states of India. And a gentle reminder for all, keep posting your thoughts and questions in the live comments. We will be addressing them. You will be receiving a certificate of participation, sharing links, how to access e-learning materials, teacher guides, and toolkits at the end of the program, provided you are a part of the program till the closure. At the end, there awaits you an exciting quiz which also rewards you with an achievement certificate. As the questions in the quiz will be from the program, we ask for your keen attention during the program. And now I would request our youth volunteer, master trainer, Tom Delaney, to take over.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Samvina man. And it's really terrific to be here with you this afternoon. I know some of you were here in the morning session as well, where we had a lot of fun with some numeracy activities. In the same way, here this afternoon, we're going to be looking in a lot of detail at the literacy program of ALfA, how it works. I know we've got a lot of questions, a lot of fun activities to do together. And so it's absolutely wonderful to be here with you today. I just wanted to re-emphasize, it's terrific that you guys are responding so much in the chat box already, saying hi, good afternoon, and all that. So please, can you also introduce yourselves in the chat box? Just post your name and also which country you are from. As Samvina man said, there's people here today from around 45 different countries, I've heard. Over this 3-day session, there will be people here from 45 different countries. So that's your name, which country you're from, or if you're from India, which state you are from. That would be lovely, so that we get to know each other a little bit. So what is, let's get straight into it now. You know, what is ALfA and why ALfA? So this whole thing started with a series of seemingly impossible questions. You know, is it possible for a 5-year-old to read a newspaper? Can children learn to read without a teacher teaching them? Can kids learn to read in months, not years? We're hoping to show you today that these questions are indeed possible, right? It seems very difficult. It seems hard to believe, but the format of the training today, right, will be very practical. And basically, we're going to be looking at, we're understanding the FLN crisis, unpacking the ALfA process. We're looking at the power of paired learning and doing many literacy activities together. We'll also be looking specifically at how ALfA embeds the 6 C's in the process. We're talking a lot about the 6 C's these days. So that's what we want to discuss, is how does ALfA inculcate the 6 C's in our children? It's going to be a very participatory training, so please be very active in the chat box. I'm seeing already lots of you are introducing yourself. That's wonderful. Many people from Uttar Pradesh. John is there from the US. Ramda is there from Lebanon. Amber is there from Belgium. So that is wonderful. Fantastic. And it's a real privilege to have this sort of technology that we can connect with people from all around the world. So the structure of the training today, basically, we're going to be showing you a series of videos from the classroom. We're going to show you classroom videos of implementation of ALfA, just very short 3-4 minute videos. And then we're going to have a very brief panel discussion about it and also ask you questions to respond in the comments, right? And we're going to be taking those questions, taking those comments and discussing those. So we've got a series of 6-7 videos to show you. And plus we've got plenty of hands-on activities, which we'll be doing here. And I hope you will also do with us. So if you haven't already, grab yourself a piece of paper and a pen, and we'll be needing these throughout the day as we do fun activities. There's going to be plenty of chance for comments, so please be active in the chat. Now, if we consider why we're here today to talk about literacy, right? Why are we even here to discuss it? Well, literacy is so important because it covers a whole range of the sustainable development goals, right? Whether we're considering the fight against poverty and hunger, whether we're considering peace and justice, whether we're looking at gender and social equality, the literacy is really key to achieving all of those. So unless and until everyone around the world, all the children are able to read, we're not going to achieve those goals. Literacy, I like to say, it's like an octopus. It stretches into every corner of life. And my own personal background is I work in the slums of Lucknow, and there I have many friends who cannot read and write. So I see the difference it makes in their life, how hard it is to do something so simple, which we take for granted. Even, you know, going to the bus stop, catching a bus, being able to read where the bus is going. Something so simple, which we just, we don't even imagine that could be a challenge, but it's there. So literacy is a gift, but it's a gift of a lifetime. It's something that unlocks a child's potential. So that's the gift we want to give every child. We want to leave no one behind on that. So that's the power of the ALfA process, is it makes learning literacy very swift and effective. Now, that's what we need to unpack today, is what is this ALfA and how does it work? So we're going to show you our first video today, and we want to hear your thoughts in the chat box. It's a compare and contrast video, right? Which looking at some of the main differences between the ALfA, Accelerating Learning for All approach, and the traditional classroom. So let's watch the video carefully and want to hear your thoughts in the chat box. What are the differences you notice between the two approaches?
Today we will do question and answers, okay? So you have to copy it. Question number 1, the wall. Okay, and full stop. So you have to copy this question. What was Tim hitting at the wall? Tim was hitting a ball at the wall.
Who sat on a rat? The cat sat on a rat. Who sat on a mat? The cat sat on the mat.
So today, children, we will learn the table of 2. You have to learn the table by heart.
2 is the 2, 2 to the 4, 2 3 the 6, 2 4 the 8, 2 5 the 10. What is the first picture? Rishi. What is the first sound? R. What is the second picture? Satkur. What is the first sound? Sh. What is the third picture? Hal. What is the first sound? Bh. What word will you get when you add the 3 sounds together? Rish.
In traditional classroom, children fear marks and exams. In ALfA pedagogy, children are engaged in joyful learning. They are driven by curiosity.
Hello ma'am. Welcome ma'am. I want to buy few things. Yes ma'am. I want this pencil box. It is of 100 rupees. And I want this book. It is of 50 rupees. And I want this bag. It is of 5 rupees. Plus 100. Plus 50. Plus 5. Equal to 155 rupees. Thank you, ma'am. Welcome. Bye-bye. Bye.
Wow, that was a beautiful video. Lovely to see some of those snapshots of the ALfA classroom, just to give us a little taster of what we're in for. So let me ask you then to please respond in the comments. What are the differences that you noticed, right? We were showcasing a few differences there. If you watch the footage carefully, I'm sure you noticed many subtle differences. So what are the key differences that you saw between the ALfA approach and the traditional approach? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments, please. And first, I'll turn to Dr. Sunita. What do you think? Obviously, you designed the program. What, in your mind, is the key difference between ALfA and the traditional approach?
There are many differences. I think we should look at the outcome. So anything that is good will show a good outcome. So firstly, we see outcome in a very short span of time. That's different. We see children's joyfulness. That's visible. We see teacher workload going down. That's visible. Teachers are not having to take correction work home. Teachers are not having to write their planners. Teachers' workload has come down. Their stress level has reduced. Though there's some stress because the children are talking. At times, the volume is high. It's productive noise because they're working in pairs. Instead of being teacher-led, it is child-led. And that, I think, is a big difference, because we say, okay, it's child-centric. The word term is used, oh, our curriculum is very child-centric. But we're not talking about child-centric. That is still somewhere in the middle. You've got the teacher-led, teacher-centric. You've got teacher-led, child-centric, and depends on how centric the class, child-centric the class is, depends upon the teacher. So some teachers are very child-centric, but still they're orchestrating. A lot of the work is still taking place by the teacher, not by the children. And the third, which is where ALfA is, we've got child-led, teacher as a galvanizer. Teachers not supporting, teachers not facilitating, teachers not a guide. Teacher is a galvanizer. So we'll learn about this in a little bit, but those are some of the differences. And what that means is the teacher sitting in the corner, she's observing, she's doing her own work, she's doing maybe some correction work or recorrection work, because children correct their own work. She may be planning the next set of questions she has to ask in an instant feedback or something like that. But the teacher's not teaching.
Right.
So how can the children learn? So that's, he was saying.
So that's
some of the differences.
It's a great phrase. The teacher is not teaching, but the kids are still learning. So that's the key part of ALfA. As you said, it's a child-led process. You saw there the kids working in pairs. I'm just looking at the responses coming in the chat. You guys have definitely observed that very carefully. So you're saying it's child-centric, it's child-led as well. That's right. No child is left behind. All are actively engaged in the learning process. In the traditional technique, the outcome is the result of what they've been taught, and it's limited. In the ALfA technique, the outcome is not limited learning, right? Children are exploring by themselves. Yeah. Children solve the problem by themselves in the ALfA, whereas teachers solve the children's problem in the traditional classroom, right? So who the children approach for help, that's a big difference. Yeah. ALfA classes are more engaging. ALfA is a modern education. Children can study multiple subjects. The traditional class has no TLMs. Yeah. Children can learn easily by actions. Enhances their potential to learn. It increases creativity and brings many other changes as compared to traditional learning. It stresses creative thinking in the classrooms. Yes, absolutely. So a big focus in ALfA is on these 6 C skills. We've got a video coming up soon showing specifically about that. Let me ask Samvina, ma'am. She's here with me. She's a principal in Aliganj 2, where you have been implementing ALfA for some time. What are the main differences you're seeing?
See, the main ALfA is about paired learning. You saw children working in pairs. They were all completely engrossed. You could see they are exploring ideas, looking for solutions. You couldn't see the teacher there. I'll say it was child-friendly and child-led, where teacher is only supporting the learning and she only gives a demonstration of how work should take place. It's only the process that she tells the children about. Children take turns, they think, they solve, they are building their own resources, if you could see that in the videos, and they are very happy learning. That the ambience, the atmosphere was very happy, joyful, we could see that. In a way, it is both teaching and learning taking place, but not by the teacher.
Wow, that's very well said. So it's teaching and learning happening simultaneously. The children at the center of the process, they're leading the process. And as you're also saying in the comments, it's a very creative, dynamic process. So I think you've obviously grasped this very well from that very brief snapshot, judging from your comments. Let's have a look at the next video, which shows us in a bit more detail the steps of the literacy process. That was a bit of a general video, which gets you the overall feel of it. This next video shows you a bit more detail of the steps of how a child goes from not being able to read even letters to all the way up to being able to read newspapers and storybooks within the span of just 1 or 2 months.
Okay, kids, as we have done random pairing now you are sitting with your new partners, right? So just meet her. She is Tina. Okay? Hello, everyone. And he's Toto. All right? Tina, look towards the module 1. What is this? This is a duck. Great job. Now you ask me the question. Okay. What is the first sound of duck, Toto? The first sound of duck is da. Well done. Now you ask me the question. Did you like Tina and Toto? Yes. Okay. Now the way I was doing, in the same way you will do the same conversation, same kind of conversation with your partners. All right? Yes. Work in pairs. Take turns to read the first sounds of each picture above. Add the 3 sounds to make words. Now will you all be able to do it? Yes. Okay, let's start.
Are you excited to learn something new? Yes. Okay, let's start. The module is here. What is this? This is a duck. Great job, Aditi. Ansh, can you tell me what is first sound of duck? Yes, the first sound of duck is D. Good job, Ansh. What is this? This is an octopus. Great job, Aditi. Ansh, can you tell me the sound of an octopus? Yes. Oh, the first sound of an octopus is O. Good job, Ansh. What is this? This is a goat. Ansh, can you tell me what is first sound of goat? The first sound of goat is Go. Good job, Ansh. What word can you make by adding all the first sounds? The word is the of the dog. Good job, Ansh. Harshika, we are going to read some words. First I will read, then you will read. Okay. Bag. Go at the bat. Bog. Go bug. At the butt. The dot. Go gab. Go as gas. Go order god. Go order god. Got. Now let's read these words faster. Got. Bat. Bog. Bug. Butt. Dot. Gab. Gas. Got. Shark. Shelf. Ship. Shop. Brush. Dish. Fish. Wash. Left it at the toy tree. Light waves by the light of the favorite food. West Modi played crucial role in G20. India is a highly valued partner, says top official. New Delhi, PM Modi was instrumental in forging.
Wow, well, that was really good to see, right? The 5 steps, all the way from the teacher normalizing, demonstrating the process, all the way up to kids learning to read storybooks, newspapers. So a very brief overview, but it gives you some sense of the flow of this and the structure. So, interested to hear your thoughts, what you noticed from the video, any observations, any questions you have at this stage about how the literacy process works. We're going to do very shortly a quick role play, a quick demonstration here, which I'll invite you to also do. If you're there with a partner, you could do with them. If you're there by yourself, you saw how the teacher had some puppets. So she was using puppets to demonstrate at the start of the video. So you could also use that if you have puppets, or just you can use your spoons or pen, anything to do this role play with yourself. Firstly, though, let me address, there were some really good questions coming in the chat box. So several people are asking about language. So this training today, we're delivering it in English, and we're looking at the English materials because we are joined by people from around the world. So English is the common language for us. We've got a training coming up on the 14th and 15th, which is going to be in Hindi language. But ALfA is available in 30 languages. I'm going to show you very soon a list of the 30 languages it's available in, and we want your help. If it's not available yet in your mother tongue, we want your help to replicate it in more languages as well. So somebody was asking whether it's available in Arabic. Indeed, it is available in Arabic. And Taskeen was asking, those who don't know the English language, can we apply this ALfA? So yes, definitely, we would encourage you, apply ALfA in your mother tongue first, right? Mother tongue literacy is the stepping stone, it's the starting point. And then once they've learned to read their mother tongue, then they can build up and learn English literacy as well. Taskeen also asked, can it be used for grown-ups as well, or in an online mode of teaching? So the answer to both of those is yes, it can and has been used for adults as well, quite effectively. So age is no barrier. And yes, we also have an app. If you go to our website, dignityeducation.org, you can see that there's all of these materials are available there online and also in an app format. So yes, definitely you can use this to teach online as well. So do keep up your questions and comments in the chat box. I want now to pull up my PowerPoint, and I want to do a very quick role play with Samvina ma'am. And we have this is kind of the heart of the language learning process. It's the very starting step. And once kids get this step, they can usually go on their own and go all the way up to reading newspapers. So it's the heart of the process is this simple piece of known to unknown, moving from the picture to the letter, to the picture, to the sound, to the word. So let's imagine that Sandhya ma'am and I we're two kids in the class. We're going to ask each other questions, right? It's not going to be teacher-led. We're going to ask each other questions and build from our own knowledge. So if you're there with your partner, you can just do this role play with them as well. If you're by yourself, you can do it with your imaginary friend. You can use your puppets. So let's get into it, because I think doing this ourselves really helps us understand the power of this process. So Samvina ma'am, can you tell me please, what is the picture on the left side?
Car.
Car, right. And what's the first sound of car?
Ka.
Ka, great. Okay, now it's your turn. You can ask me.
Okay, Tom, can you tell me what is the picture on the right side?
Then there is a apple. Apple.
No. Apple is in the middle. The middle picture is apple.
Okay, on the right side, it's tub.
Okay.
Okay. And can you tell me the picture in the middle?
Yes.
What's that?
Apple.
Great. And what's the first sound of apple?
A.
Ah, okay, great. And the picture on the right, you asked me, it's tub, right?
Yes. Can you tell me the first sound of
tub?
The picture, tub?
Okay, tub, ta. Okay, so we've got those three sounds there. Can you join them together?
Ka, a, t.
Great. So what does that make when you join them together?
Cat.
Cat, lovely. And what is a cat?
Cat is a furry pet animal in various colors, gray, brown. Dr. Sunita Gandhi's got a very cute cat at her place.
Okay, great. Cat, yes, it's a billy. So you saw, maybe could you put in the chat box, what are the questions that you noticed we were asking each other, right? There was three questions that we asked each other. You'll notice that we took turns asking each other questions and responding. Can you please put in the chat box, what did you notice? What are the questions we are asking of each other? You'll see that we're starting from the picture, going from picture to sound, and then to words. So can you post in the chat box, did you notice what were the questions that we asked each other? Okay, I'm just looking for your responses in the chat. Okay. Now, I'm going to address some other questions that have come as well. I'm looking for your response as to what questions we are asking each other. Harpreet has also asked, do children comprehend what they have read by this method? So that's a really good question. You'll notice that the last thing I asked Samvita ma'am was, what does cat mean, right? So in context where English is not the mother tongue, we encourage kids to also ask each other what the word means, right? So we want them to be able to read with comprehension. Priyanka Singh is saying, in traditional classroom, only the teacher is the convener, right? And the children are only receptors. Whereas in ALfA, child-centric education is emphasized. It's a new way of making children learn in a fun way. Absolutely. So Pratibha has started responding. That's great. Question 1 was, what is the sound of the picture? Okay, you're close. There's a question even before that. Does anybody remember what the first question was that we asked? Yes, we asked the first sound of the picture. Even before that, that's right. Yep. We asked questions on the sound, the picture, and the meaning together. Yeah, Hina, that's right. What's the first picture? Then what's the sound of the picture? Right. So the 3 questions we've got there on screen now. So first we're asking, what is this? Then we're asking, what's its first sound? And then once you've repeated that process for all the picture sound combinations, then we're asking, what do these sounds join together to make? So that's the heart of the process, and we're going to be showing you very soon in a video, which is flipping through the pages of the literacy book. That will show you how this process works from start to end, right? But basically, in just 5 short lessons of just a couple of pictures, basically we've got the 26 pictures. That's all you need to introduce the letters of the alphabet. There's boxes at the bottom which enable you to practice those same pictures, those same letters in new words. Going from there, we build up to longer words, we build up to consonant combinations. This is the start, this is the key part of the process. So I hope you were there with your partner. I hope you did it with them as well. And I'm sure if you did, you'll enjoy and experience the power of it.
Yeah, show them how they do it with the puppets.
So for example, supposing we have the puppets, right? Supposing we see this often, kids are doing this at home, or the teacher can do this to demonstrate from the class. So it can be like, hello, can you see the picture on the left side? What is it? Oh, I don't know. Let me look carefully. Oh, that's right. It's a car. Okay, so can you tell me what's the first sound of the car? Ah, car, 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 car. Okay, great. Now it's my turn. I'm going to ask you. So it's this process, right? It can be quite fun. You can make your own puppets. The kids enjoy making their own puppets, and they really enjoy using this.
So much learning and conversation happens afterwards at home.
The kids can use these at home, right? It may not be at school. They can make these at home, and they can do their own role plays at home, even if they don't have another child to do it. So let me show you, you've been asking a lot of good questions around languages. So let me show you the full list of languages that ALfA is available in. If I can just click to the next slide, please. Yeah. So I want to show you the list of languages. This is, so you can see it's arranged here in alphabetical order. There's Arabic, Bangladeshi, Divehi, which is the language of Maldives, Dutch, English. I'm not going to read them all. I'm going to get a sore throat. There's about 31 languages, I think, and more in the pipeline as well. All of these languages have just 2 very simple short booklets. You can go online on dignityeducation.org. I'd encourage you to do that after this session and have a look at the if it's available in your mother tongue. And if it's not available, definitely we want your help in replicating it in your language. It's the same very simple process, moving from a picture to a sound to a word, the same structure pretty much across the board in the different languages. Of course, there's some differences. You know, Hindi has matras as well. Different languages have their different special features which are integrated into the books, but the same basic flow going from known to unknown. So that's the flow which we're going to be looking at in the next video, right? The next video shows you the English book, but just keep in mind that it's basically this very similar for whichever language we are considering.
Welcome to the ALfA English Literacy Program, which teaches the foundation of reading and writing in a swift and enjoyable manner. Learning English can feel daunting because it is not phonetic and has funny spelling, but the ALfA books are there to guide your children on the journey. Book 1 introduces the most common sound of each letter, and students practice reading single-syllable words and simple sentences. The first page gives useful instructions for how to use this methodology of paired learning, in which children ask each other questions to build from their existing knowledge. It also reminds you to avoid some common mistakes, such as using rote learning or teaching the whole class at once. The first lesson introduces 6 letters. In step 1, we check whether students are familiar with what each of these pictures are called in English. If English isn't their mother tongue, they may be unfamiliar with some, in which case we can use a variety of games to introduce them. For instance, use the flashcards provided or invite children to make their own and play matching games. In step 2, the students ask each other questions to go from picture to sound to word. First, they point to the picture, asking, "What is this?" Then they ask, "What is its first sound?" After repeating for the other picture letter combinations, they then ask, "What do these sounds join together to make?" and follow up by asking the meaning of the word. Students then swap roles for the next word, taking turns to ask and answer questions. Remember to focus on the sound of the letter, not its name. That is, we say ka, a, t, not cat. In step 3, students use the same letters introduced above to form new words. Here, abstraction takes place as students blend the sounds in new combinations. If they forget how to decode a letter, they can refer above to step 2. The mentor notes below are a reminder of the whole process. You will need to keep reminding your students to take turns and ask each other questions. The mentor notes also provide extra video resources. Each lesson has the same structure, introducing 4 to 6 letters to cover the whole alphabet in just 5 lessons. The lessons gradually build up the number of words in step 3 to increase the level of practice. The next 3 pages give phonetic practice of the different vowel sounds: a, e, I, o, e. The alphabet is presented here well into the book. It's here just for revision. We don't teach the alphabet at the start because it's more interesting for children to learn to make words from the outset. The next few pages have practice sentences. Here, sight words with non-phonetic pronunciations begin to be introduced. For instance, the letter A normally makes an A sound, as in apple, but it can also make an sound, as in umbrella. We use color coding initially to show the different vowel sound. Similarly, the letter S can make a Z sound in words like is and was. The next 2 pages help children construct their own simple sentences with a given structure. They can generate many more sentences by simply replacing the last word of the sentence. Another page facilitates vocabulary building as children ask each other questions like, "What is that?" while pointing to different objects and pictures. Book 1 concludes by providing more reading practice with a poem for each of the different vowel sounds, followed by simple comprehension questions. Book 2 teaches longer words which aren't necessarily phonetic, and it builds vocabulary, fluency, and confidence. It starts by introducing some common consonant combinations like SH, CH, and TH. It also demonstrates the silent E rules. We go on to many passages which each practice a particular vowel sound, like A as in rain and ok as in talk, and so on. Then there are some pages to thematically build vocabulary: vegetables, fruits, household objects, places, transport, and verbs. Again, prompts at the bottom encourage children to ask each other questions like, "What is your favorite fruit?" and "Can you catch the ball?" We go on to short passages which foster values such as love of learning, equality, friendship, and cleanliness. The passages also have comprehension questions. Learners can make their own questions to ask each other. Further pages are there to help children introduce themselves and learn manners. Now we build more vocabulary with an animal theme used to introduce prepositions and adjectives in a fun compare and contrast activity. Then there are role-play passages in which children take turns to read their part of the dialogues between Raju, Sona, and their mother. We move on to a foundational understanding of grammar with sentence-making activities. Children choose one word from each of the columns to construct a noun-verb-noun sentence. Book 2 concludes by teaching the order of pen strokes for writing small and capital letters. So you can see that, using these 2 thin booklets with plenty of activities, we can teach foundational English literacy swiftly and enjoyably.
Wow. So I think hopefully that gave us a pretty good overview, just a very quick flip through of the pages of the English book, that it gives you some idea of its structure, its flow, how it builds from the simple to the complex. You saw there book 1 is just single syllable words and each letter making its most common sound. And then book 2 builds up to more complex words and consonant and vowel combinations and a lot of vocabulary building and grammar as well. So let me ask you then, what did you notice about the structure of the English books? Anything that was surprising to you? anything you found interesting. You might have seen there that we don't start with the alphabet. We have the alphabet in the middle of book 1 rather than at the start, which is quite unusual, at least for Indian books. So yeah, anything you noticed about the structure or flow of the English books there. And again, I'd encourage you to have a look after this session. Have a look if your native tongue is something else, please have a look at it in that language. Those books are available from our website, dignityeducation.org. So I'm also looking, while I'm waiting for your comments in the chat, I'm also having a look at some good questions that have come in. CLC asked, are these books free to use? So
for non-profit
yes,
purpose.
Absolutely. So for a non-profit purpose, right? They are free to use the ebooks, to download as well, to use in your schools, in your NGO work, in your house. They're free to use for not-for-profit. Randa Ajami also asked a good question. She asked, do you have videos of children whose English is not their native language and trying to teach them English? So basically, they have no vocabulary for the pictures. Now, we're going to have a look quite soon at a video of kids from government schools, right, who definitely have no English whatsoever, right, but they are learning their mother tongue first. So we do emphasize mother tongue literacy first. But Samvida, I think in your school also, some of the kids who are learning English there, they would not be speaking English at home, right?
Absolutely.
So what's your experience there? How are they able to use these books even though English is not their mother tongue?
I'd like to clarify one thing out here. All the videos that you're seeing from both the campuses, whether it's Gomti Nagar Extension, City Montessori School, or Aliganj Campus 2, City Montessori School, all these children, their native language is not English. But the medium of instruction at City Montessori School is English. And teachers are trying to ensure that the children learn English through reading, through writing, through a lot of literary activities.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. So most of these kids are not really speaking English at home. They're learning English at school, and these books are a part of that process.
Absolutely. And we have parents who cannot speak in English at all. But then if you look at the children, you've just seen through the video, seeing is believing, I'll say. And we would also like to invite you people, if you come visit Lucknow, do visit our schools and see.
But we can also point out that if your kids are not familiar with those 26 pictures initially, right, and many kids will not be familiar with those initially, then you can play various games, do various activities. We've got some flashcards, or kids can make their own flashcards and do games. They can do memory games. They can do lots of fun activities, which will help them just learn at least those 26 pictures, learn to recognize those to start with. And that's kind of the building block, the foundation stone on which they can build on. I'm seeing some good comments are coming in. So Pratibha is noting that the same word is in different sounds, different colors shown in the book. Okay, that's a good pickup. So you saw there towards the end of book 1, we had some color symbols, right? So the letter A was in a certain color when it's making an A sound, and it's making a different color when it's making an A sound. So English is a bit confusing that way, not a very phonetic language, but that's how we're trying to help convey that, is by using some color coding. Nasreen Banu is saying known to unknown is wonderful. Great. Yasmin is asking, how can I get these books? So definitely these books are there. They're available for you. You can go to our website. Also at the end of this session, there'll be a quiz. Please complete the quiz, fill your email in there. And then if you would like the books, we're going to share you a link from which you can download and use those books.
To our channel.
So please do subscribe to our website, subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we keep doing trainings like this. We keep offering materials, free materials. We don't want to make a profit out of this, right? We're not in it for money. We want to share this. We want the maximum number of children to get the benefit from these materials, from these processes, from these activities. So all English books are picture-based, in which children can recognize pictures, sounds, and can do the joining of letters.
Known to unknown.
Absolutely. So it's known to unknown. They're using those pictures. So I think you saw the books. They have lots of good prompts, lots of good activities. So now we're going to do an activity together. So I hope you've got your pen and paper ready, right? Because it's going to be a fun activity, and we want you to post in the chat box at the end of your activity. We want you to post in the chat box at the end of the activity as to how many words you got. So it's a very simple one. Please keep the PowerPoint on screen for now. So basically, I'm going to be showing you 7 letters, right? a series of 7 letters, and you can use these 7 letters to form as many words as you can. I'll be giving you 2 minutes when I say go. They can be 3-letter words, 4-letter words, 5, 6, 7-letter words. You can use the same letter multiple times. Okay, so for example, if I make the word red, then I can still use the R in other words. There's no problem with that. So you can keep reusing the same letters. And we just got 2 minutes. We're going to see how many words we can make. I hope if you're sitting there by yourself, you can do it by yourself. If you're with a partner, you can team up. And then at the end of this, we're going to post in the chat box how many words we made, and also what was the longest word we made. So let's keep it on screen. Ready, steady, and go. Let's do it. Keep the PowerPoint on screen, please. So 30 seconds in. I hope you're doing this wherever you're watching from. It's a fun activity. Use your pen and paper and see how many words you can make. So we've just got 30 seconds to go. Almost finished. Okay, 5 seconds to go. Just finish the word you're writing. And stop, everybody. So let's hear in the chat box how many words you made, and also what was the longest word you could make. So I'm looking forward to hearing your responses, and I'm going to check my co-panelists here as well. It's not a competition, but let's hear it. Sunita, how many did you get?
I made 18, but very small ones, mostly 3-letter words.
Okay.
And my biggest was idea,
Okay.
IDEA.
Okay, idea, that's a good one. You got
And
18.
rain, and rain.
Okay, very nice. Samvita, how many did you get?
I've made 11 and my biggest word is garden.
Oh, garden. That's a lovely word. Beautiful. So let's hear in the chat box. I think I'm going to check. I've got 8, 11. I've got 15. And my longest word, but I will admit that I cheated here because I selected the letters. My longest word is reading.
Pretty good. And grinding.
Yeah.
Reading and also grinding.
Wow.
Grinding.
Pretty impressive.
So let's hear in the chat box. Okay. Malian has made garden. That's great. Let's hear also how many words you got. I'm sure somebody, Sunita got 18. I'm sure somebody topped that.
But mine were very small ones.
There were probably at least 50 words there. Okay. Several people got reading. Somebody got danger. That's a good one. Danger. Okay. Garden. Yes. 15 words for Kiran. 13 words. Okay. India is also there. Oh, that's good.
Very clever.
Grade
Lovely.
is there. Dining. Lovely. Danger. Yes. Danger, India. Okay. Looks like 15 is maybe the top. Looks like Sunita's strategy of 3-letter words was a good one to win the number of. Okay, and Rushta has also got 18. Excellent. Great. So let me ask you then, even as you're responding there, let me ask you, what do you think? There's obviously many ways we could teach writing. Okay, so this is kind of a writing activity. One most common way of teaching writing is perhaps for the teacher to write some words on the board or write a sentence on the board and tell everybody, okay, copy this down in your notebook. Just what I've written, repeat the same in your notebook. So what do you think is the advantage of doing an activity like this instead of that traditional approach for teaching writing?
Even
dictation. I want to hear your thoughts in the chat box. Obviously, another very common way of teaching writing would be just the teacher is here dictating some words, right? At least that's slightly more interesting, or the kids need to work out the spelling on their own. But what do you think is the advantage of doing an activity like this instead of a traditional dictation or copy from the board approach? So looking for your thoughts there in the chat box. Let me ask you too, Samvida, what do you think? What's the advantage of using an activity?
I think here what we have seen in our classroom, it boosts students' ability to concentrate and focus on learning, firstly, and cultivates problem-solving skills, increases their vocabulary, their memory out here, and also their spelling, reading skills while they're making these words. And playing these games makes them happy, joyful.
Okay, great. So you're saying it's a joyful process and a creative process. They're developing their critical thinking through this.
Yes.
Yeah, terrific. Totally agree.
And also, they are expanding on their vocabulary here by making new words.
That's a really good point, right? So many of you made words that I could not find. Maybe we made some words that you did not find. So through this process, kids are then sharing words with each other. They're building each other's vocabulary. Yeah. I see that some of you are thinking along similar lines in the chat box. Danish said it triggers our critical thinking. Learners think critically and recreate more words. Yeah, absolutely. It's more engaging and more interesting. They have to think for themselves. Absolutely. Somebody found grinder as well. That's nice. So yeah, it triggers critical thinking. This approach opens the student's mind for imagination and the ability to combine letters. It's moving from recalling to the application. Helps them learn more while thinking. So exactly right. So in ALfA, we are not just, obviously we are focused on literacy and numeracy, we're focused on FLN, but we want to go beyond that as well. And so the 6 C's, what we're talking about, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, these are part and parcel of the process. They're embedded in the process. It's not like there's a separate module on critical thinking. No, the activities we use to teach literacy and numeracy, they are also developing critical thinking. They're also developing creativity. Sunita, anything you would like to add here? What's the advantage of an activity like this rather than just copying from the board?
I think a lot of it has been covered by the comments from the people that are participating here. Samvida ji made some fantastic points. Additionally, we can say that this allows the children to depend on their own self for learning. We can agree on that. And also instant feedback. So if I get a spelling wrong, you just notice that, oh, that's a nonsensical word. Or you can say, well, I didn't see that word. Let me see, what does it mean? Pick up a dictionary and start using. Nobody's in a rush. The one thing that you will notice that in the same time that a teacher will make a dictation or ask you to copy some questions or text from a textbook, or you write on the board, they copy in their notebook, they can do so much more work. And it's the quantity and the volume of work also, and the quality of the work and the independence of the work, all these add up to a story.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So it's a very dynamic process. As you're saying, the prompts, this activity is the starting point. It's not the finishing point, right? The kids can then check each other's work. And also, like this was 7 letters that I gave you. Obviously, the kids could also choose their own random set of 7 letters, 8 letters, and then do the activity again. So the teacher has very minimal work in this process. She doesn't need to mark a whole lot of dictations. She doesn't need to invent a whole lot of things. It's just one simple activity which the kids can do over and over again with a lot of fun each time, making fresh words. So let me show you let's do one more activity together. If we move on to the next slide. This activity was about moving from letters to words, right? Now this next activity is about moving from words to sentences. So you can see here on screen, there's 3 column. The first column is a set of nouns. The last column is also a set of nouns, and the middle column is a set of verbs. So in English, the general structure of a sentence is a noun, verb, noun sentence. So here in this activity, we're going to choose one word from each of the columns to construct one sentence. Okay, we're going to make a couple of sentences each. So I hope you're there with your partner. You can make sentences. If you're by yourself, that's fine too. That works. You can make your own sentences. So we'll just take a minute for this. And you're also welcome to add more nouns or more verbs to this list and use them in your sentences. So let's take a couple of seconds. We'll make 1 or 2 noun, verb, noun sentences, and we'll share them in the chat box. Let's go for it. So I want to hear some nice creative sentences coming in the chat box. Okay, so I'm sure some of you have done already. So as you do it, just post some sentences in the chat box that you've made, either using the words that are here on the screen or adding your own words to the bottom of this list. You'll see here in the prompts at the bottom, not sure if you can read them, they're kind of small size in the slide, but the prompts say, pair up, take turns to make words, make sentences by choosing one word from each of the columns. You can use any word from each column, and then it also encourages you to add more words, add more nouns and verbs to each of the columns to make fresh sentences. And the final prompt there is actually combining a set of sentences to make a story, to make a narrative which has meaning. So you can see these very simple activities, very basic activities, bring a lot of joy, bring a lot of learning, and they can be used by kids over and over again with fresh ideas. So let's hear some of your sentences in the chat box. Samvita, would you like to share any of your sentences first?
Yes, Tom. Sister runs the house, dog plays with a ball, mom rides a car, bird cooks for UFO.
Okay, bird cooks for a UFO. That's interesting.
The camera was there, I couldn't see the middle ones, you know.
Okay, great. I'm seeing some of your responses. The sister splashes in the pond, my teacher rides a bike, dad drives a car, mom cooks food, fish swims in the pond. Okay, this is good. Her dad chases the bike with the car. Okay, that's creative. The bird flies over the house. Dad cooks dinner. I like that sentiment. Yes. Great. I had a slightly different one. I had the alien rides a bicycle. The dog cooks dinner. So yeah. Okay, so let me ask again your thoughts. What's the advantage of using an activity like this, right? What are we trying to teach using this sort of activity? And what's the advantage of using it? Obviously, again, when we're teaching grammar, a more traditional approach would be to tell the students a definition of the noun. You know, a noun is a person, place, thing, or object, right? And the definition of a verb, and it's an action word. So you tell them a definition, and you just give them a list of words for them to copy, right? For them to memorize. But this is a different approach, right? What's the advantage of this sort of activity? I'll turn to you again first, Samvita. What do you think? What's the advantage of kids making their own sentences?
I think it helps them polish their writing skills out here. And they learn to build definite sentences, and they understand these meaningful sentences that they're making, you know, maintaining the correct tenses that we are looking into along with the spelling.
Okay, great. So they're learning some grammar through this activity, right? They're learning tense, they're learning how to construct a sentence, but it's much funner, much more enjoyable,
Definitely.
right? The very word grammar, it sounds scary, but this is a very fun way of doing it.
And they're building their own sentences. Words are given to them. They are the ones who are constructing. It's not a teacher's writing on the whiteboard or a blackboard and they are copying it down.
Right. Okay. So they're very much involved in the creative process. They're not passive recipients.
Absolutely.
They're creating their own thing. And we've got more modules ahead of this where, yes, children are writing their own stories. They're introducing themselves. So very much we want kids to learn the mechanical skill of writing, definitely, how to hold a pencil, how to form letters, but we want them to go way beyond that. We want them to become creative writers and to enjoy writing. So would you like to add anything about this activity or the activities we do in ALfA for literacy?
Right. So there's a particular sequence of events. It's not maybe dissimilar to how we would normally teach, in the sense, not in mathematics. Mathematics, we're doing things very, very differently. But here too, we're not teaching the alphabet. So that, of course, is a lot of saving of time. And then not just that, we are using the cognitive powers of the mind. And I think everywhere you'll see that we are using the cognitive mind. You can call it, a gestalt. It's organized in a way that children can relate to it, number one. Number two, they can use the analytical mind. Number three, it's known to unknown. So every new module draws on the previous one, and previous one becomes then the next one becomes then the next known. And then on the basis of whatever they have learned so far, next unknown is given. So it links with the previous known, so they can relate to it and scaffold and decode it for themselves. So it breeds independence of learning. If we gave the ALfA material to the kids and we allowed these very eager parents and even just the eager kids to have access to it immediately, I think a lot of them would finish it in 10 days. So we are saying take 45 days, they'd probably do it in 10 or 15 days, because every next one builds on the previous one and they can connect to that learning. Secondly, that the analytical mind is used, of course. And thirdly, that you are able to generate lots and lots of volume of work without having to give lots and lots of volume of paper. Right? So like that one half-page module or just half a page module, you've got noun, verbs, nouns. Now kids can make their own noun, verbs, noun lists. You don't need to teach the grammar concept separately, that this is a noun, as Thomas has alluded to it earlier, that it's not saying, okay, children, write down in your notebooks, nouns are names of people, places, animals, and things. Everybody written it? Now you all know nouns. Now tell me nouns, okay? So this kind of thing can be avoided. There are other examples much better than that. Of course, verbs, for example, you can teach through actions, and many teachers do that. But I think here they're discovering on their own, they're feeling out what noun could be. Obviously, they can see analytically that these are names of things. And at the bottom in the prompts, there are definitions. So they can read for themselves. They're also prompted to do these things on their own. We're not using workbooks, so that saves a lot of environment and a lot of money, and goes straight to the notebook. And even notebook, they can write on any slates, any form at all. It was also a lot of mental work, right? So there's a lot of I can create sentences, talk to Tom can make sentences, talk to me. And we can do volumes of work before we get to writing. We've seen that the writing work, and Ma'am Samita can verify, is twice or thrice the traditional way of doing things by the end of it. In the beginning, it's not so much writing work. By the end of it, meaning by the end of 39 days in her case, children are writing double, more than, in fact, in the traditional, more than double as well. So this is all happening because you're unleashing a process. You're kind of making children capable of their own learning. So if you gave them the traditional materials and put them in pairs, they'll probably be very lost because the material doesn't speak to them. But because of the ALfA materials, which are like bite-sized, simple lessons, clear instructions, clear prompts, what are you expected to do? And then there's a takeoff point. So we find that the teachers get very innovative. They come with their own prompts, their own ideas, and the children get very creative. So we've given noun, verbs, noun. They'll now introduce an adjective in it, right? So this could be like, my beautiful dog eats jalebi. Right? So it could be anything. And the kids are getting, of course, lots of practice, lot of vocabulary building here as well, and sentence making. Then they can be fine-tuning of that sentence making, like capitals come where, proper nouns, what are proper nouns, all that. But you do it through cognition rather than through rote. So that would mean we'll give, an analysis, and we'll show without the capitals and with the capitals. And at the bottom in the prompts, it will say, where do the capitals go? And why do they go? Now make your own sentences with capitals. Things like that. Okay, so
absolutely.
Yes.
So I'm just following your discussion in the chat. Many of you have made lovely sentences. You put them in. Thank you for that. Mina is saying students will be able to make sentences. It will improve their vocabulary. Definitely, right? So maybe Samvida will add a word to her sentence, which I don't know. So I'll be asking her, what does that word mean? And some people are asking, can we use prepositions? Yes, definitely. So the noun, verb, noun, these are the key words of the sentence. But yes, you can add you can add an to make it a grammatically correct sentence. That's fine. And as Sunita was saying, this it's a flexible activity, right? Kids will go on. They'll start adding adjectives. They'll start adding adverbs, right? We can do.
Or this articles.
They'll start adding articles, prepositions, right? So they can use this same basic activity. The activity is not the finish point; it's a starting point, right? They can make their own. They can take it much further, right? In much the same way that the first activity we did, where we were writing words with a set of letters, you could also then choose a separate set of letters and go again. So yes, it's the books that are there. The books are important. They're very well structured modules, but they're a starting point. They're not the end point. They're not like, okay, this is all you need to do. This is the starting point. It gives you a prompt and lets you go, lets you run with it.
Okay, for example, the previous activity in which you had a handful of letters inside boxes, and we made 18 words, 16 words, 11 words, and so forth. That particular activity, in a classroom, you would give the opportunity to the pairs to make up their own boxes. So they'll make a circle and put letters in it. So Tom will make for me, I'll make for him. Maybe I'll make 5 circles with lots and lots of combinations of letters. He'll make maybe 7 or 8 of them for me. Now, he'll make it in my notebook, I'll make it in his notebook. Now, from that, we will be then making our words. He'll be checking my words, I'll be checking his words. There's like tons of creativity. And this activity is actually written in the prompts. This is what they can do. But what we found is children get very creative. For example, that I might use my letters of my name in one of the boxes or circles. He might use letters of his name. So they make these variations on their own and the extensions on their own. So this particular one, you can do it for a week. The one that Tom just showed with the noun, verb, noun, keep adding things to it. And the kids discover on their own.
Absolutely. Now, you may be wondering, quite legitimately, okay, most of the footage we've seen so far, it's from CMS, from a school which is obviously one of the top schools. How does this process work in different contexts? How does it work in villages, in slums, in government schools? So the next video we're going to show you is exactly from that. It's from implementation in district Shamli, which was one of the low-performing districts of Uttar Pradesh. It's about how the ALfA program has been very powerful, very effective there also. So all this to say, ALfA is there. It's for many different ages, for kids and for adults as well. It's also for many different contexts, not just for private schools, for government schools also, and for slums and villages. So I hope you enjoy this next video to see the remarkable achievements of kids from underprivileged backgrounds.
कोरोना से पहले बच्चे पढ़ नहीं पाते थे, उनको काफी दिक्कत का सामना करना पड़ रहा था।
जिस टाइम ये कक्षा 3 में आए थे, बहुत कमजोर बच्चे थे। कुछ बच्चे 2 अक्षरों वाले शब्द भी नहीं पढ़ पाते थे, कुछ को वर्णमाला का भी ज्ञान नहीं था।
जून की छुट्टियों में और कोरोना काल में जो भी इन्होंने पढ़ा लिखा था, सब ये भूल चुके थे।
लेकिन अब 2-4 बच्चों को ही छोड़कर जो डेली नहीं आ रहे, सभी बच्चे पढ़ने लगे।
इसके सहयोग से बच्चे पेयर लर्निंग में बहुत बेहतर तरीके से सीख पा रहे हैं। बच्चों का लेवल जो पहले 0 था, मात्र 15 या 20 दिन में बच्चे जो शेष हैं वो भी बहुत अच्छे से सीख पाएंगे।
जो बच्चे किताब नहीं पढ़ पा रहे थे, आज बहुत से बच्चे अखबार पढ़ रहे।
देवी संस्थान के कार्यक्रम जो चलाया जा रहा है, ये FLN प्रशिक्षण वाला, वो काफी सराहनीय है। मैं बेहद खुश हूँ कि हाँ, मेरे बच्चे पढ़ पाते हैं, कक्षा 1, कक्षा 2 सभी बच्चे।
तो रिजल्ट बहुत ही उत्साहजनक और सकारात्मक है। जैसे कि देखने में आया, अटेंडेंस बच्चों की बढ़ी है।
एक भेड़िया गड्ढे में गिर पड़ा, उसने बहुत कोशिश की पर गड्ढे से बाहर नहीं निकल सका। भैया हमारी चिड़िया रानी पिंजरे लाकर मैले बनाती, ऊंची डाली पर लटकाती, खेतों से पीता ना लाती।
पाठ का क्या नाम है? चांद। एक दूसरे से प्रश्न पूछोगे?
हाँ जी। सूरज में रोशनी कहाँ से आती है? सूरज की अपनी रोशनी रोशनी है क्योंकि सूरज एक तारा है। की ओर से व्हाइट हाउस, रक्षा विभाग, पेंटागन और विदेश मंत्रालय ने अलग-अलग बयान जारी कर अपना
चलो बनवाओ संख्या कोई साथी से।
4405।
शाबाश। चलो बेटा साथी को सवाल बोलो कोई।
7050।
7050।
2163।
2163 घटाओ इसको। सही क्या बेटा इसने घटा करके क्या संख्या आई है?
4887।
वेरी गुड, बहुत अच्छा।
105 की जमा गुना
वेरी गुड। एक लिखो स्कूल और एक बच्चा लिखो जगतपुर। क्या पढ़ा लिखा बेटा? शाबाश। घड़ी में टाइम बनाना आ गया बेटा? घड़ी में टाइम देख के बता दोगे अब? 5:45 बनाओ। शाबाश शाबाश, बहुत अच्छे। 10:05। सही बनाया बेटा इसने? सही बनाया, शाबाश। चलो सामान खरीदो दुकान से।
100 का बुलेट बम, 10 के बीडी बम, 10 के आलू बम, 5 के काजू दे दो।
कितने हुए?
125 जी।
ठीक है। चलो बेटा इनसे कोई आकृति बनवाओ।
आयताकार।
शाबाश।
The workload of teacher has reduced, and then copy correction work is also like somehow reduced because they are checking each other's work. For me, I will say the role of teacher has changed drastically in ALfA classroom.
Children work here in pairs, so they used to go home and they used to work with their parents as pairs. So with this, I think parents have also been a part of ALfA.
What makes me most happy is that my daughter reads newspaper daily. I have seen children coming home and demanding their parents for toys, gadgets, and different expensive items. But to my surprise, my daughter insisted me, Papa, please buy English newspaper. You can say this for how many kids these days? It's very rare.
All the things that are being done in ALfA modules, they are eco-friendly as well as cost-free.
In ALfA, I've never been required to buy any material from outside. My child's learning resources are made with waste items which are lying at home. She uses chickpeas, grams, newspaper and sticks to make her resources.
हमें ऐसे प्रयासों की जरूरत है जो फाउंडेशनल लिटरेसी को न केवल प्री पैंडेमिक की स्थिति में बल्कि उससे कहीं ऊपर हमें पहुंचा सके। इस दिशा में मैं सुनीता गांधी जी को उनके कंसेप्ट और प्रोग्राम एक्सेलरेटिंग लर्निंग फॉर ऑल अथवा ALfA के लिए बधाई देना चाहूंगा, जो आप देश के विभिन्न हिस्सों में संचालित कर रही हैं। साथियों, इस प्रोग्राम के माध्यम से लोगों को 90 डेज में लिटरेट बनाया जा सकता है। मैं आशा करता हूं कि आने वाले समय में बड़ी संख्या में लोग इससे जुड़ेंगे और इसे सपोर्ट करने के लिए आगे आएंगे।
Wow. Well, that was pretty powerful to see, wasn't it? Those young kids in government schools reading newspapers, reading their own textbooks with understanding, interacting very confidently with each other, forming pairs. Pretty lovely footage to see. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts, your reactions in the chat box, what you thought of it. Sunita, would you like to say a couple words about how it's going there in Shamli and in government schools also in Sambalpur, Orissa?
Right. So for me, it was a pretty big breakthrough that we could get the schools in the government sector. It's not easy to convince the government to give you their schools. And in our case, we were very fortunate because Secretary Education, Ministry of Education invited us to work in these two LPDs, low performing districts of India. That is your Sambalpur in Odisha and here in Shamli, Uttar Pradesh. And as I probably mentioned to you that the program has grown manyfold in just a handful of months. We also have now the opportunity to work with Jharkhand, Haryana, and we're in discussion with MP. Initially, these are pilots. We began with a pilot with just 20 schools, and now we're looking at 3,000. So it is something that is different in many ways. In Shamli, the experience has been very positive. We also wanted to see whether when we unleash a process, like we unleash a process for the children, we unleash a process for the teacher. We want to see, do they enjoy? Do they want to do it? Will they continue with it? Would they want it next year? What is the outcome? And I think we're seeing very positive outcome in that sense. Like in Odisha, for example, we are not there. Neither are we in Shamli. We are in Lucknow. It's about 10.5 hours by car to get to Shamli. That's pretty daunting. We can't go there very often. And we have not gone there. We decided deliberately not to go to these places, just go there to train them for one day. Every teacher got trained for one day, that's all. And then we left it to them to continue with it. We wanted the government apparatus, like the supervisors and others, to be there in support. They have not been there in support, actually, as much as we had hoped. So we actually have left the whole thing to the teachers. And like in Odisha, we see, they had a compulsory program of the government for literacy for FLN made by the state directorate of education. So they had to finish that first. And so it took a long time for them to get back to ALfA or to ALfA. And when they did get to ALfA, enormous improvements, and we see these videos coming from them practically daily. We get videos, and it's a delight to see that on its own is propagating. It's like a catalyst, and that's what we want to see it as. So in this training also, our hope is that it'll act as a catalyst, that we can give you that trigger, that starting point, like a prompt of sorts, and that you get going with it, and you get the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish, and you'll excel at what you're doing. So that's what's going on in Shamli.
Yeah, beautiful. So I'm just seeing your responses in the chat box as you're reacting to that footage. Literacy is one of the greatest gifts a person could receive. Great to see here. That's from Shangri-La. Yeah, totally agree. Aditi is saying these modules are aligned well with the National Reading Mission. Kudos to Dr. Sunita. Yeah, I totally agree. So obviously the goals of Nipun Bharat, the goals of the National Literacy Mission, those are the same. Our goals are exactly the same. It's just our method of achieving those goals, of reaching those goals, is somewhat different. Aditi also commented earlier, above all, they're creating on their own the highest order of Bloom's taxonomy. Very good point. So if we're thinking of Bloom's taxonomy, that hierarchy of learning, right, or we can also call it the learning pyramid, this is creating on your own, like rote learning or just repeating something. It's what we call these lower order skills, right? Whereas what we are really striving for is creating on your own, being able to explain it to somebody else, being able to analyze it critically. And that's what these young kids are doing there in Shamli. So it's been a really, I guess, engaging afternoon session. It's been terrific to have so many of you very active in the chat, discussing a lot. I think there's a lot for us to think through. So it's time now to stretch our legs a little bit, to have a little bit of exercise as well. Let me hear first from Samvita ma'am, if anything you would like to share. And then very, very soon we'll have some exercise.
Thank you, Tom. I would just like to say that ALfA is a gift to the world, to humanity, by the author Dr. Sunita Gandhi. And it is, again, not about the product. It is about the process. It gives children prompts and opportunities to work on their own. And it's really important that you all go through the structure of the learning materials. That's really very important. And the ALfA modules have music, games, activities, physical objects, and it connects to real life. That is the reason why we find every child fully engrossed, engaged, thinking, solving, innovating, and waiting for their turn.
Beautiful. And as you've been speaking, Priyanka has dropped a lovely comment. It's so surprising and overwhelming to see children who are underprivileged or from less educated family backgrounds reading so fluently. You're exactly right. Many of these will be first-generation learners. Maybe their parents have not had the chance to go to school. Their parents themselves are illiterate. And these kids are learning to read a newspaper. How terrific. Children are looking enthusiastic and they're taking keen interest in learning activities. Absolutely. So the thing is not just the result. We want the process to also be super enjoyable. So
many of our children cannot do it. These are grade 2 children whose class you saw. We just deliberately picked a particular class to give you an idea. Usually we are focusing on grades 1 and 2 because 1 and 2 children should be able to do better than grade 3. So somebody talked about, are we covering the syllabus or can we, manage the syllabus? We can do much more than the syllabus. As you can see, these kids are way ahead of the grade 2 requirements. Nipun Bharat, national initiative for learning with understanding, reading with understanding and numeracy, Nipun Bharat, is a scheme of Government of India, which is, basically every part of the country is busy. All the government apparatus is now on ALfA, on foundational literacy and numeracy, and but there's a lot of teachers working very hard. They're being supported a lot more. There are a lot more workbooks. There's a lot more supervision. There's a lot more assessment of the children than ever was before the COVID. This is like tremendous effort. But why is the progress on the report card not so tremendous? Why is it also in the private schools? Many children still, after the COVID, are struggling because they lost out on more than a year and a half of learning. This is real. But can we counter that real with another real? So I think you can see that, yes, we can. And these Shamli teachers and Sambalpur teachers are ready. They can be the trainers for you, even better than us, because they've been in the trenches doing it. We did the research work in the trenches. We have our schools where we go and do laboratory work with the children. We observe the teachers' reactions to things. We see how the teachers are taking it up. So there's a lot of 8 years of research that's gone on with us. But these teachers are daily confronting these children. And if they say this is better and they know how to do it, they can be better trainers than us. So in the next round, I'm hoping that within a few months, we'll have 10,000 trainers in the country who'll be ready to go train others. And that's the goal.
What a vision. So if you who are watching this would love to join us, please join us in this mission. We want to spread ALfA to every nook and corner of the country and of the world, indeed. Now, online trainings are wonderful, but sometimes in-person trainings are also really valuable. So we can't be everywhere physically present. As Sunita was sharing, I've also traveled to Shamli a couple of times. It's an arduous journey, right? We need people every part of the country who can run trainings for us locally. So if you're watching this and you'd love to join us with that, please do reach out to us via our website. So it's been a lot to digest so far in the afternoon, and we've got a lot more exciting content to cover as well. So let's take a very brief exercise interlude. So if we all stand up wherever we are, right, we're going to do a fun dance together. And it's really important to get that blood pumping.
Sami.
Let's discover, let's explore your creation and so much more. It's exciting, can't wait to see what you have in store. Surrounded by waves of your mystery,
everybody. Wow, always a bit embarrassing dancing in front of people, but you did a great job despite your saris. I think I had the easier job, but challenging to dance in a sari. So I hope you enjoyed that, and definitely ALfA needs to be a process of active learning, active in the mind and also active in the body. So as we move forwards, you've been seeing a lot of classroom footage. You've been seeing that really at the heart of the ALfA process is paired learning, right? Children are working in pairs. They're making their own questions for each other in pairs. The teacher is there as a galvanizer, but the teacher is not teaching directly. Rather, the teacher is just helping them form pairs and go for it. So this video we're going to watch, we're going to have a look at the paired learning process, exactly how the teachers make pairs, what's the advantages of it, and how it works in pairs. I also want to remind you that if you're watching this, if you're enjoying it, you can please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to our newsletter via our website because we run these sorts of trainings. Frequently, we want to do more of this in the future and want to share more educational materials with you. So please do go ahead and subscribe. So let's have a look at our next video, which is showing the process of paired learning. And we want to hear your reactions to that in the comments.
Paired learning is the cornerstone of the ALfA program. Children working together in pairs enable rapid rates of learning. In this video, we're going to discuss that why paired learning is effective, why random pairing, and how to make pairs. Let's begin with why paired learning is effective.
Many studies have shown that paired learning is more swift and it's more effective, and it helps in improving children's performance, their academic performance, their social development, as well as their motivation and the engagement in the activity.
A traditional classroom has a teacher people ratio of 40:1, which really makes it difficult for the teacher to pay attention on each and every child. But when we talk about random pairing, this ratio becomes 1:1. The child is engaged and doing the activities.
The Times of India Smith tracks are up to half-kilometer long, 2 feet wide. A ground survey of the cracks revealing the vulnerability of the area, reports Shivani Azad. Speaking at the UP Global Investors Summit in Gradual on Friday, Tata Sons Chairman
Okay, so now we know that pair learning is effective, but now the question is how to make pairs.
Okay, so there are different ways of making pairs. We can even use paper chits, right? Or ice cream sticks on which you can write down the roll numbers of the children, and you can call out one child who will pick the ice cream sticks, and he or she is going to call out the roll numbers written on it, and then those two children will come together and sitting in a pair. Let's start the class with the random pairing. Namya, please come out and call out your friends' roll numbers.
Roll number 44 and roll number 5.
Yes, roll number 44 and 5, please come. Gati, please come out and call out the next two roll numbers.
The next two roll numbers are 14 and 46.
Okay, roll number 46 and 14, please come out from your places and sit together. Very good. Avyukta, please come out and call out the next two roll numbers.
The next two roll numbers are 25 and 36.
Okay, roll number 25 and 36, please come out and sit together. Now the question comes, why random pairs?
Random pairs, what I think, that children enjoy the surprise. They understand better when they have a concept explained by their peers, whose thought processes are almost similar to their own thought processes. It also avoids sorting and labeling of children. Labeling and sorting of children, it really disheartens them.
Today we are going to read Sun, Moon, Sky and Stars. When we get up in the morning, it is daytime. We always see the sun shining in the sky. planet has its satellites too. As planets go around the sun, satellites go around their planets. Hey Henry, I don't know the meaning of satellite. Please tell me the meaning of satellite. Yes, let me search from my dictionary. Okay. An artificial object placed on an orbit around a planet. Thank you, Anvi. Hey, Anvi, let's revise chapter Sun, Moon, Sky, and Stars. What are stars? Why do they appear small? The stars are big ball of fire. They appear small because they are very far away. Correct.
So are the pairs going to be same for the entire session, or do we change them?
No, we quite frequently change the pairs every day. In fact, for every topic. The reason behind this is that they get to work frequently with each other at some point of time over the month.
How may I help you, sir? I want the juice and this puppet, but the cost of the juice is 20 rupees and the cost of this puppet is 50 rupees. Don't worry, I have the change amount. Okay, there. Oh, 100. Let me calculate, sir. The left amount is 30. Thank you, sir. Thank you. At what time do you wake up? I wake up at 6 o'clock. When do you go to school? I go to school at 8 o'clock. Which time did you take dinner? Eat my dinner at 8:25. When you go to play? I go to play at 3 o'clock.
Wow, well, that was lovely to see that footage, and very interesting to see the teachers discussing amongst themselves as well the processes for making pairs, how they do the randomization, how frequently they make pairs. So a lot to unpack there. Let me ask you first in the chat box, please. What's your feeling about this idea of using paired learning in your classroom? Are you already doing some paired activities? If so, what proportion of the time? In ALfA, we're using pairs the vast majority of the time, like 95% of the time. So do you think that's plausible to do in your classroom? If not, why not? What might be the challenges? How do you feel about the idea of using pairs in your classroom? So let me ask then Samvita ma'am some questions about pairs that I have in mind. For example, how does it work with really young kids? We see, I feel like, okay, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, they won't be able to concentrate. Maybe they won't even be able to with each other well. So how can they do paired work together? Would you like to share your experience?
Yes, Tom. What we've seen in our classes, pair work is a very natural way for students to talk and learn more. It gave them a chance to think and try out ideas and new things. And it also provided them a comfortable way to work through new skills and concepts. And it works very well in a large class. As Dr. Sunita Gandhi also mentioned earlier, in a pair, it's 2 children together, so each one gets a chance. And also, very important thing out here is pair learning, what we saw, fosters 21st century skills. The 6 C's that we all talk about: character, citizenship, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. Each child learns to speak confidently. Their accuracy consistently improves through the discussion. And they are not being judged here. There is no teacher who's sitting there and judging them. So without any inhibitions, we see.
Wow. Okay, very well said. And I'm remembering in the start of that video, one of the teachers also made the same point you're saying, that in a traditional classroom, it's a 1:40 ratio. Right now, we talk a lot about pupil-teacher ratios, and there's a lot of politics about that in India. But in a paired classroom, in a sense, even if you've got a lot of students in your class, it's still a 1-to-1 ratio, right? The kids are working with each other directly. So that's why it's much more possible to have active participatory learning. Whereas in a traditional class, if I'm addressing 40 kids at once, there's no way that I can address them each in a way that's relevant to all of them. At least half of the class will be bored. They won't be able to follow. So I'm looking at your responses in the comments, how you feel about paired learning. Tetia is saying, using pair is very good for children that share their thoughts and ideas, but in some case, children who are shy and less talkative can make problems for the pair. Okay, that's a good point. We'll come to that in just a sec. I want to hear ma'am's thoughts on that. Ritu says, random pairing assures the students to make new friends, creating better classroom dynamics. It instills confidence in working in collaboration. Yeah, pairing is an excellent method. It's amazing. They can learn to interact with each other. Great. So Tetia's point that maybe some kids are shy and would struggle to work in a pair. Would you like to address that, Sanvida? In your experience, how does it go for kids who are quite shy in the traditional classroom? Do they remain shy in the pair?
No, it is not that. We give space to each and every child there, the trust factor which is there, and we see them opening up. We are so used to the rote way of teaching that the teacher wants to jump in and immediately want to, save or protect the child. Here it is not that. If we give them a little space, we see them. They overcome this challenge. And we have witnessed in classes the children who were not speaking at all, the backbenchers whom we call, they also were interacting with the front benchers, the ones who are very confident and speaking very well. We could see that difference.
That's really nice to hear. Yeah, and I think you're probably right that if you're just sitting, even in a large class, of course, there's going to be many kids who are shy, who don't speak, who never raise their hands. But in a pair, they'll become a bit freer. They know they're not being watched by everybody. They're just there with their friend, and they can open up. So yeah, I think it is a really powerful method for even shy children to become much more interactive.
I'd like to add one more thing out here, because here they work in pairs, and this is random pairing. It is not that the same pair continues for the entire month. So every day on a rotational basis, and the children are free to select their own pairs also.
Right, okay.
So they have that flexibility.
So you have random pairing, and you also have kids selecting their own pairs sometimes. I like the other comments that are coming in. Just me saying it helps develop the habit of respecting others' views. Yeah, very shortly we're going to be looking at a video on the 6C skills. And obviously citizenship or respecting others' views is a key part of that. Using pairs will be very helpful. This is Lal Rohalpuri. I'm very sorry, I've totally mispronounced your name probably. But using pairs will be very helpful for interaction with others to share their idea. It's a great method, helps improve their speaking skills. Right, so that communication skill we're talking about. Yeah.
So I want to say that, paired learning and paired learning, it's like many other terms fail in terms of describing what's going on. And the reason is that, paired learning, but what kind of paired learning? What kind of transaction? What kind of, setting in which they're learning? Are they learning on their own, or teacher saying, everybody now turn to each other and do X, right? Think, pair, share. This is happening a lot. In fact, you will see many classrooms are using pairing as a way. But are the children co-creating learning? Are the children able to work with mixed abilities? Large classrooms with mixed abilities? Are they able to work with mixed ages? Intergenerational, of course, as well, which we can do. It doesn't really matter what your age is. It matters that you are learning and you're progressing. So the bar is different. We are not saying that it matters what your mark is. And in fact, what is interesting is their marks are really good. But we're not focusing on that. We're focusing on effort, because what yields the mark is the effort. If I'm putting in the effort, I'm going to get good marks. But we don't focus on the marks, because when you focus on the marks, it puts stress upon the child. It makes them feel I'm not good enough. I didn't get that particular mark. Makes them feel small. The resolve gets less. They give up. While here, what we are saying, look, effort. Are you putting in the effort? And we're not even going after them to put in the effort. They're actually doubling, tripling the effort on their own. When they go home, the children from an ALfA classroom, they are busy with learning. We have a lot of parent testimonials. And one of the parents, I just saw a testimonial of from some of the MAM's campus, where the parent is saying, oh, my child is no longer using the mobile. How many parents would love to hear that? They're so enjoying the activities. They go on with their Tina Toto puppets, and at home they're doing Tina Toto, Tina Tuto. They're like their imaginary friends who are talking to each other, and in that they're improving their English. The amount of work is so much more, and it's not being forced upon them. It's something, the effort is happening effortlessly. For the teacher.
That's a very good phrase. The effort is happening effortlessly.
Yeah.
Very profound.
And that's what we want. We want a system that is natural. Fits like a glove. The psychology of a child, it fits like a glove, the psychology of a teacher. And what do the parents want? I mean, at the margin, they just want more written work. They want the child to speak well in English. They want, the children to be very confident, and they can show off, my child got X mark, Y mark. Now, what harm is there if all the children get the highest mark? We have a problem with that sometimes, because our parents have been coached to look for who is first. What if half the class is first? They get the ultimate 100 on 100, or 90% of the class gets 100 on 100. See, we need to prepare our children better. When effort is going in, they are better prepared. And because they're better prepared, they're learning, they're reflecting that in any test you give them. We gave a horrendously difficult test for pre-test and post-test of the children, because we wanted to see the flavors, gray, more shades of gray. And so you can't get that if everybody's getting 90 in a pre-test, there's no room to get any more marks for the post-test. So you really deliberately can do that for design. But when it comes to actually testing children, we need to be criterion referencing the test. So what is the criterion? And set the standard high. That's absolutely fine. But children should know what that standard is, number one. Number two, the children should be prepared for that standard. So they don't feel, oh, I've been asked things I was not taught, or I didn't have the opportunity to learn, right? In our case, we are not using the one taught, or we are not using the term taught. We are using the term learning. So before they've learned something, how can you question them? Secondly, have you, as a teacher in the traditional system doing great things with the traditional system, have you ensured that the children have learned? Because sometimes we blame the children, they didn't know, they can't do it. Instead, we can say, well, I wasn't able to teach well enough. How come half my class doesn't know this or doesn't know that? So it's more, tests should be seen more as a critical analysis of ourselves as teachers rather than critical analysis of the children, because children are very capable. We should see children as work in progress. We do, but not always. And we need to see that always. So basically, when we talk about, setting the equation right in terms of ALfA, it's many levels where we are doing things differently. You can't just call it pair work. So think, pair, share doesn't go into these aspects as we are talking about.
Right, very true. So that's the video kind of just scratches the surface. But as you say, it's really quite a different way of doing things, because it's not just that they're sitting in pairs, it's also that they're making their own questions for each other. They're really leading the process themselves. So I'm seeing many of you are getting this from the comments. So pair learning is like a solution for all the problems. Wow, okay. It's a magic bullet, yes. Priyanka is saying, a few children act as the teacher themselves. They check their partners, correct them, help them. They try to replace the teacher. Working in pairs increases your confidence level. Children are correcting each other. That's right. So it's that process of self-correction. It's a control of error. The teacher's workload is reduced. They are not needing to check all the children's work. Rather, the kids are helping each other. They're checking each other. It's a beautiful process. So ultimately, of course, the proof of anything is in the results, right? And so we're not focusing much on the tests, on the marks, and so forth. We've shown you a lot of classroom footage, but ultimately the quantitative data does matter as well. So I want to show you just a couple of slides of the quantitative results from ALfA implementation thus far. So meanwhile, I'm just getting the breaking news, which is quite exciting, that we've also got participants from 5 more countries are now joining us over this 3-day session. So all of you are most welcome to be back again tomorrow. Tomorrow is a bit of a different flavor. It's not a training, but rather it's a policymakers conference. So we're going to be hearing not just from us, we're going to be hearing from educationists around the world in very short 5-10 minute presentations, hearing what they're doing for the cause of literacy and numeracy in their own context, what challenges they're facing, how they're addressing them. So it's going to be very interesting. There's going to be 3 separate 3.5-hour sessions. So we've just got the 5 more countries which have joined, Burundi, South Sudan, Israel, Palestine, and Tanzania. So that's a diverse list of countries. And yeah, so we're up to a total of 50 participants from 50 countries and 27 states of India. So that is terrific. Yeah, just sharing briefly with you the results from ALfA thus far. It's a very new methodology. It's only been used for the last year or so. This is the results from Shamli district, the video you saw just a few minutes ago. Now, this report has been published. It's a book, actually. It's been published by the Harvard Graduate School of Education just earlier this month, called Rebuilding Resilient Education Systems After the COVID-19 Pandemic. And there's 2 chapters in this book which are about ALfA. One chapter is looking at ALfA in the Maldives. One chapter is looking at here in Uttar Pradesh. So the RCT results here on the left side, you can see a 0.23 effect size for grade 3 and a whopping 0.89 effect size for grade 5. So interestingly, some of the teachers, when we were offering the training, they said, okay, this ALfA, it looks like very basic stuff. I'm not sure if it's going to be helpful for our grade 5 children or not, but it looks like it really was helpful. To help you interpret that, 0.23 and 0.89, what this means, an effect size of above 0.1 or so is quite statistically significant. It's quite powerful. It's quite effective. So 0.23 is good, and 0.89 is really tremendous. If you're looking at the graphs on the right, it shows you the improvement over baseline. So in Hindi and maths, the improvement was roughly 28 percentage points, 25 percentage points, whereas in the control group, there was an improvement, but a much smaller improvement, 9% or 5%, 6%. So you can see that the rates of learning are really much, much higher. These are the results from just 45 days of implementation in Shamli district.
Harvard?
Yeah, I've mentioned there that Harvard has published this report. There's 2 chapters in this on the ALfA program. And similarly, we've got some good results have come in from the implementation here in Lucknow, in City Montessori School, in Samvida, your campus. Would you like to speak to this at all? Right? These are the results after just 39 days of implementation. So just to explain this briefly, here there were some class sections which implemented ALfA. Some class sections did not. They stuck with the existing curriculum. And we did a pre-test, a test before we started, and then a post-test after 39 days of implementation.
With all of them.
So with all of those sections, both the control group and the treatment group. So Samvida ma'am, you can maybe highlight the differences there.
Yes, as Tom has said, you can see the post-test and the pre-test data here. Here, I'll just like to mention that treatment group is the ALfA class and the control group are the non-ALfA classes. We started it as a pilot project in one section of class 1 and similarly in one section of class 2. So if you see in the pre-test, the ALfA group has got in grade 1 English 50.77 as compared to the non-ALfA class, which is 48.24 with a difference of 2.53. Whereas when the post-test was taken, the ALfA class has 65.39 and the non-ALfA class 45.28. And the difference is 20.11. So please note the difference between the two. It's 20.11 and 2.53. And if we take the difference of post and pre-test, it is 17.58. And the effect size is 0.87. This is for English. And if we look at maths, in the pre-test for ALfA classes, it's 51.41. For the non-ALfA, it is 38.53 with a difference of 12.88. Whereas in the post-test for the ALfA class, it is 56.57. Non-ALfA is 33.85 with a difference between both the classes, 22.73. And if we look at the difference between pre and post-test, it is 9.85 and with a difference of 0.52 here.
No, not difference, effect size of 0.2, effect size.
Let me just interrupt you. It's fascinating data. I know many of us though glaze over when we have too many numbers. So yeah, it's a detailed table. You can have a look through it yourself. But just to say, that's a really tremendous result, ma'am. Hats off to you and your teachers. That's in very few days, in only 39 days. That's like less than a month and a half. It's tremendous to see that a 17 percentage point difference. As Sunita was sharing, quite a difficult test as well they were being given. but they've shown tremendous improvement in that. So the results are there. You've seen footage, you've seen the numbers. Now what remains is trying it out yourselves in your classroom, because as we said at the start, it's not just seeing is believing, it's doing is believing.
Yeah.
So as we move forwards, we want to talk a bit about what is the role of a teacher in the ALfA process. We've been looking a lot at the role of students, right? How students are working in pairs, but the teacher is still playing an important role. It's just that it's a very different role to the traditional education system. So in the traditional education system, the teacher's job is to fill the students' brains with information, right? We imagine there that the brain is just a box, an empty box, and we need to stuff it with information, stuff it with facts. Now, of course, this is not the way the brain really works. So in the ALfA classroom, the teacher's role is to be a galvanizer. Now, what do we mean by this word galvanizer? It's a very fancy word. Sunita, you coined it. Would you like to say, what do you mean by a galvanizer? What is the teacher doing in the ALfA classroom?
She's staying out of teaching, number one, which is very difficult for a teacher to do, not to teach. What about all that learning we did? Well, we're saying anyone can teach. You see, we are master trainer as a youth volunteer, right? So anybody can be a galvanizer. Not everybody can be a teacher. There is a role for a teacher, but the role is different. There are many roles for a teacher. For example, the teacher must know how to do instant feedback with immediate corrective action. What does it mean, to be able to take instant feedback? That's quite a skill. To be able to make it look like the children are learning on their own, but she's a master orchestrator. To have that peaceful time with herself, to think better, to observe children better, to create the environment, to speak in the language of encouragement, not language of praise or reprimand. So there's a big difference. What is the language of encouragement? When we talk about growth mindset, or we talk about fixed mindset, to create a growth mindset in the classroom. These are new skills of a teacher. Soft side skills are far more important than subject level skills. Many times it is said, oh, well, your results were not so good because you're not an expert of that subject. We've seen many, many times where expert teachers have not created the best results. There are times that has also happened, but there's no conclusion that just because you are a better expert, your children are doing better. There are many more skills that come into play. And a galvanizer is a better word than, say, a facilitator, because in ALfA process, even if you're walking around the class to see what everybody is doing, you're disturbing the class. Because the moment you walk by me, I look at the teacher, I'll not be focusing on what I'm doing. That's taking time away from me. I'll be looking at her, looking at my work. Oh, have I done any mistake? I'll be fearful. There's so many reactions that happen. Why should the teacher go around the class? The teacher can sit in the corner, observe. Of course, a teacher is very anxious. Are my children learning? Sometimes we are over protective of our children. We want them to showcase result immediately, right? So we want to immediately correct them. Say, no, leave them alone. Today they don't know, tomorrow they will know. The process is fast enough. You don't need to rush it anymore. So the teacher is not supposed to interfere with the learning, but teacher needs to plan the next day. Teacher needs to know what materials are needed, what activities are in the prompts, read them up so she can relate the prompts very well next day. Teacher is not supposed to look in the book and then explain. How many teachers can teach without a book? Do we know many teachers who can teach without a book? Majority of them will have a book in front of them. We said, you don't need the book. You don't need that expertise. You don't need to say what's already in the book. Why not unleash a process? Let them discover for themselves what's in the book. As long as they can read to learn. So galvanizer means you're not interfering. That means you're not facilitating. The moment you're facilitating, you're a facilitator. You're bound to do something to facilitate. We say, don't do that. Don't help the kids. Then the other thing is, you can call them, let's say you can say that they are a guide by the side. So you're sitting in your corner and children come to you when they have a problem. You say, don't do that either. Let the children solve the problems among themselves. This is teaching them resourcefulness. In life, they can't go to mommy and papa to ask, what do I do now? They have to get on with it. They have to go ask somebody who can tell them. They have to overcome the difficulties and learn how to overcome the difficulties in n number of ways. They're learning the character, so many other 6 C's as we talked about. And 6 C's are by Michael Fullan. They're by Michael Fullan, and he came up with these 6 C's. It's a beautiful construct. The world over, it's being followed. It's not unique to ALfA. There's so many things that are not unique to ALfA, but the way we are doing those things and enabling those things is unique. and it's happening at a faster pace in a real sense every day. So a galvanizer role is to make sure that those outcomes are happening. Another role of the galvanizer is to normalize the class in a different way. So we call it a new normalization, alpha normalization, or alpha normalized class. What does it mean? That children can work in pairs. They know the rules of working with pairs, that we take turns. It's not like I'm always asking questions, you're always answering. I know better than you. It's not that. It's about equal. It's about taking responsibility for each other. It's saying, Tom, well done, Tom, that was really brilliant. And Tom is saying to me, Sunita, that was great. This kind of thing, reinforcement. Children learn to do that, manners, taking turns, but also saying, oh, good morning, Tom, how are you today? Those things are very important. It's like in a real life, when we go to work, we say, hi, good morning, how do you do? And we try to take our turns. We teach them now from itsy bitsy ages, kindergarten up. So these are all the roles of the galvanizer, among others. These are the more germane ones, more important ones. We call them the core maxims of a galvanizer.
Absolutely. Now, one of those, so as you're seeing there on the screen, right, the teacher, it's a very different role. Your main role now is to pair up the kids randomly, to demonstrate how they work with each other, demonstrate how to make turns, to set the new norms, set the new rules of the game, and of course, to prepare the environment, both the built environment, right? So that means setting up the classroom in a way that the kids are facing each other rather than facing the teacher, and also constructing a social environment where the kids want to cooperate rather than compete with each other. Now, Sunita mentioned a point there, which maybe, I'm not sure if you picked up on. She was distinguishing between praise and encouragement. And it's kind of a subtle distinction, so we want to dwell on this a little bit as to what does it mean, right? We often think, okay, let's praise our kids, let's give them a verbal reward. Let's give them a gold star, let's give them a smiley, right? Let's say good boy, smart girl. But this is not actually that effective, right? If I just show the next slide. Yeah, moving to the next slide, please. So it seems that rewards, right, or praise can actually undermine intrinsic motivation. So, for example, if I'm giving Samvida a gold star, then maybe next time she'll actually be working for the star. She won't be working for the love of learning. Instead, she'll just be, she'll be working for that star. So if we give too much extrinsic motivation, which can be a reward or a punishment, that can actually undermine the intrinsic motivation, which means the love of learning, the desire to learn yourself. The teacher remains in control, and as a judge, the teacher is the one who's giving the reward or the punishment, and the kids are not doing it themselves. So let's do an example of this together. I'm just going back to the previous slide. Sorry. So back one more slide, please. So instead of saying congratulations, you came first in the class, what's a different way we could say this, right? Which is more constructive. This first example, obviously, that's a praise. I'm just saying you came first in the class, congratulations. This is not a very constructive feedback to give a child. So what's a better way we could say it? What's some way that we could say it which would lead to more effort, which would encourage other children? I want to hear your thoughts in the chat box, please. What's a different way? Instead of praising a child by saying you came first in the class, what's a different way we could say this? Or what's a different way we could encourage kids? A way we can encourage all, not just some. I'm going to turn Samvida to hear your thoughts first. What do you think is the problem with saying you came first in the class?
I feel here we are not focusing on the effort out here, because when we use the language of encouragement, it puts focus primarily on a child's effort, on the improvement rather than the outcomes.
Right.
Good point.
That's a really good point. So you're saying, if we are saying you came first in the class, we're not looking at where they've come from, right? Maybe they always come first in the class, so it's not actually a big achievement. And we're comparing the kids against each other. What we should be doing is comparing a child against their own track record, whether they're making progress, whether they're improving over time. So yeah, totally agree with you there. Interested to hear your thoughts in the chat box. And as those come in, I'll ask you, Sunita, also, what do you reckon? What's the problem with just saying you came first in the class?
Oh, this is definitely the wrong path. We don't want to go that path, and we have been going that path. We need to change courses. And if we do not change direction, we're going to end up in a terrible world that fights each other, that fights for the first place. And regardless of means, so how does it matter if I just look over and write my answer, because when I go home, I can show my father I got 9 on 10 or 10 on 10. So we actually are teaching the end rather than the process of learning and enjoying and discovery and effort, true merit rather than just the marks, because this is not true merit. I just peeped over and saw your answer and wrote my own. So it's engendering cheating. We have this picture which just doesn't go away from my mind of these parents climbing the walls in Bihar to give chits of paper to the children, their children, so they can get a better mark. And this is, this is a race to nowhere. It is totally crazy. I think we need to rethink that part, not just rethink that part, we need to completely eliminate that ethic. It doesn't bring out the best in most children. Even the ones on the top, who are, number 1, number 2, number 3 position, they're under stress, tremendous stress. They're not winning. They don't necessarily end up in the creating the best circumstances for their own futures. It's the middle and the bottom ones who sometimes, go ahead. So it's not about marks. The battle is not about marks. And in any case, marks are very unfair or not a accurate reading of a human potential. When I was doing my grade 10, just to give my example, I got 46% in history. Now, that's not a mark at all. I got a very low overall mark in grade 10. I was doing ICSE board at St. Agnes's, Loreto. And before that, I was a student of City Montessori School. And when I went to England, I suddenly decided, I want to study. I want to do this. And I ended up with scholarship, 3 scholarships at Cambridge University, doing physics. So the fact is that I was always probably a, capable person, but my school would have made me believe, or marks would have made me believe I'm not good enough. We never must make a child feel they're not good enough, because they are very good. They can do anything. God has created everyone with great potential. They may not all be equal. I may not be, I know for sure, not as smart as Tom. And yet, I can do certain things maybe, that I don't need to compare with him, that give me a lot of satisfaction. So it's also about building intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation never comes from marks or focus on mark. It comes from the joy of learning itself. How do you create the joy of learning itself? So we say, let's, not even say, have you put in the effort? That's also very much extrinsic. We want to make it internal. And that is, the growth mindset in a way. Carol Dweck's idea of growth mindset. And I really like Alfie Cohn's book, both books, The Case Against Competition, and his book, Punished by Rewards. So basically, there is a lot of good work out there. We've not gone saying, look, let's look at this and let's look at that. What we find is once ALfA came out of research work, we saw that a lot of these things, in fact, all of these things are happening in it. And so we don't focus on marks, because everyone get 100%.
Absolutely. So I see as you're talking, many people are responding in the chat box. That's great. So Smita said, you accomplished one of your goals. Keep working and stay focused. I like that. Stay focused and take others with you so that more excellence can be achieved. Really good, right? So it's not about competing. It's about cooperating, collaborating. It's not going to help in learning. Competition is not going to help in learning. Pose questions that enable their mind to start thinking. Give feedback in the form of questions. That's really good, Taskeen. So what do you think? Where do you think you need improvement? Right. So instead of the teacher giving feedback, ask questions. Let the child self-reflect. Let them mark their own work. Let them mark their partner's work. And let them move forwards that way. So that's what we wrote also. I love how much effort you're putting into your studies. So if we consider the first statement, it's actually demoralizing in a sense. Okay, I feel good in a sense, but I'm also not actually going to put in more effort. Like, okay, I came first, so what? Whereas this second statement, I love how much effort you're putting in the studies. Wow, okay, I want to put in even more effort in the future. So if we look overall, considering the difference between encouragement and praise, and the way I see it, and judging from your comments, there's basically 3 key differences. So the first is that praise is about just encouraging some children, whereas encouragement is about encouraging the whole class, right? So instead of saying you're the best in the class, wonderful to see you working so nicely together. So it's something that actually motivates all the kids in the class. I know that when I was in school, my teacher used to often praise me and say things like, okay, your Urdu is so good, Tom, and why can't you other kids, why can't your Urdu be good like Tom's? So this is, of course, very harmful for my relationships with my peers, right? And people used to resent me, kids used to resent me for that. So we need statements that encourage all kids rather than comparing them against each other. The second aspect of it is, does it lead to more effort? So rather than just praising you're so smart, let's ask the question, as I think Taskeen said in the comments, let's ask them a question. What can you do next, right? And finally, it should be specific. Any feedback should be specific enough to actually be useful, so the kid knows what they're doing well, what they're not doing well. They can reflect on this themselves, right? You can ask them, what do you think you could do better next time, right? So these are some of the aspects, some of the distinctions. It's maybe not obvious initially. We think, okay, let's just give them a gold star. Let's say smart boy, good girl, well done. But if we think about it more carefully, we should consider exactly what we are saying to our kids, because it does have a big effect on their psychology. Now, we've been talking a lot
There's one more
throughout
thing.
the session. Yeah.
One thing more I want to say, that we want the assessment to come from within. So when you say, "Oh, I see you're putting in effort," that's still external.
Right.
You ask the question, "Your marks came out well.
Did you work hard?
How did you get there? What did you do? Surprise me, this is great, because wow." And so you're not really praising, you're trying to get a feedback from the child, you're putting them back inside themselves, you're asking them a question about their own performance, you're not evaluating, you're not the judge.
Absolutely.
And I think that is really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the child is their own judge. They're judging, they're looking at their own work, they're thinking themselves about how they can improve in the future. Now, some of these comments have also mentioned throughout. We've talked about collaboration, critical thinking, communication. So let's look briefly then at what these 6 C's are, right? So the next video, which we're about to share with you, it's dwelling on how ALfA embeds these 6 C's, right? ALfA has many benefits, right? We've already talked about some of these. We've talked about how it's zero cost, we're providing it for free. It's zero carbon if you're using the e-learning materials. Even if you're using the printed materials, it's very environmentally friendly. They're very thin paper booklets. It's much faster than the old methods. It's joyful, active learning. So let's come to this other point of how it embeds the 6 C skills. We've touched on this briefly, but in the next video, we're going to take a deeper dive, look at how the kids are actually learning to collaborate, how they're learning critical thinking, how they're learning to become more creative. So let's watch it.
Good morning, and Jajaga. Today we are here to understand how ALfA class will help children to be a better future ready citizens. So I have Ankita ma'am, Farah ma'am, and Jaya ma'am here. So Farah ma'am, would you like to share your views?
Actually, in ALfA classes, we emphasize more on building of 6 C's. Now, what are these 6 C's? 6 C's are those skills which helps in the overall holistic development of the child, and hence it prepares the children themselves for future ready citizens.
Ma'am, please can you explain what are these 6 C's?
Yes, surely. 6 C's, as the name suggests itself, it's 6 different skills of learning, like critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, citizenship, and character building.
He went and jumped on a box. "This box is too hard," said, "Oh, Tommy." "Oh, this box is too hard," said Tommy. Then Tommy saw another box. "This box is too soft," said Tommy.
A good job, Farah ma'am. So what did you learn from here?
Thank you, Ankita ma'am, for helping me, and thank you for keeping up patience with me. The same word I was not able to read again and again, but you did not lose the patience. So thank you so much.
Good job.
So we have learned a virtue from this, a value from this.
What is that?
That is helpfulness.
Correct. And be patient.
Okay, since Ankita ma'am, you helped me, so I have something for you. I have prepared a badge for you.
Oh, wow.
And on it I have written, "Helpful Ankita."
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So children, did you understand that we have learned a virtue from today's class? That is helpfulness. Now, when you will work with your partners, you are also going to take care of them and help them. Understood?
Let's do some reading. Okay. I we need different names of transport means. No problem, please. Another. Means of. Should I help you again? Yes. It's transport. Thank you. Are also used to carry goods. Some common use of transport in the kits are. You did a great job. Thank you, Tammy. You are a very helpful boy. I have something for you. This is for you. I have made this for you.
Can you join all the sounds and guess the word?
I can try.
Absolutely.
J. E. T. Jet.
Jet. Absolutely right. Great. I was collaborating with you. We both were working together, right?
What is collaboration?
Collaboration when we work together for certain thing, for some task, right?
Like we did just now?
Yes.
I was faltering in reading and you helped me.
In case if I'm not able to read any word, then you are going to guide me. You're going to help me. That is called collaboration.
Okay, so collaboration means working together
As a
and
team.
helping each other so that if anyone is facing any problem, we can solve the problem of that person. That is collaboration.
So children, now you all are going to do in a similar way, right? If your partner is not able to understand anything, so we'll take that as ownership and we'll guide that partner. So can we do that? Yes. Okay, let's get started.
What is the first picture? This is a what? What is the first sound of the picture? Yeah. No. See again the picture? Yeah. No, it will be verb. It is yam or it is van? Van. So it will be verb. Okay.
Today we are going to do an activity where you are going to read a chapter and ask the questions to your partner. In this way, you will be able to enhance your critical thinking.
Today we will read EVS Animals chapter Animals Around Us. Okay. We see different types of animals around us. They are both big and small. They live on land, in water, or on trees. Now your turn. Animals like cat and horse live on land. Animals like dolphin and shark live in water. And animals like monkey and bats live on trees. Now from this page we will ask some questions. Okay, we see different types of animals around us or one type of animal? We always see different types of animals around us. Okay, now it's your turn. Okay. Should we take good care of our pets? Yes, we should take good care of our pets.
This will enhance your creativity and you will be able to understand how to use your waste materials.
Let's make the pattern board. Okay. It's right. Well done.
What is the connection between 6Cs and alpha classes? Actually, ma'am, I feel if a child is taught through alpha process, he possesses all the skills which are needed for securing jobs in future and make him better citizens.
And also, Ankita ma'am, in alpha classes, like they learn to work in pairs.
Yes.
They do random pairing. They take turns to ask questions. So they are responsible for their learning as well as the learning of their partner, right? So it helps them to converse better. They collaborate with each other, and they become more confident and responsible in the class. This is what I felt.
Wow, well, that was pretty impressive footage. Okay, sorry for the glitch there. But yeah, pretty interesting to see, wasn't it? How the kids are making little virtue badges for each other, and how they're affirming each other, encouraging each other, and their creativity as well in making that boat with the newspaper and decorating it. Really nice to see. So I want to hear your thoughts in the chat box. How can we inculcate the 6C skills among our kids? Creativity, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, citizenship, character. What is the best way we can do this, right? Because I remember in my own childhood, we used to have these moral education classes where the teacher would usually read out a story. There'd be a moral of the story, like, don't lie or respect your elders. There'd be some moral, but it often seemed very abstract and it was not really applied. It was just there as a moral. So how can we build these qualities? How can we build these virtues in our kids? I want to hear your thoughts in the chat. And I'll turn first to Samvida. What is your feeling about how do we develop these 6C skills?
Okay. Tom, here I'll say I'm sure everybody has noticed the integration of the 6Es and all the multimedias, presentations, which remains a constant in all the ALfA activities. Every day a child inculcates 21st century skills in himself or herself, whether they're helping each other, they're taking turns, or where courtesy, manners are coming into it, whether they are reinforcing their buddies' learning or virtue badges making, taking responsibilities, sharing responsibilities. So here the 6Cs of learning are creating a solid base for interaction and mental exploration of the students. And that is fostering a positive learning and will do for any age group, I feel.
Absolutely, yeah. So it works for any age group, and it's developing those 6C skills. They're really embedded in the process, as you've seen in the footage throughout, right? It's not like a separate module for creativity, a separate module for critical thinking. Rather, it's through those activities, as we're doing today, right? The kids are developing their creativity, their critical thinking through those activities. And in that process of paired learning, they're developing their character, they're developing patience, as we saw in that really cute video in which those two girls were working and one girl was not getting it. Yeah, so they're developing these skills in practice, right? It's not something you can develop in abstract, it's only through practice. So I'm looking forward to your thoughts in the chat. Sunita, what would you like to say about, well, firstly, what the importance is? Why are we talking about the 6Cs these days? Why are they so important? And yeah, how can we develop them in our kids?
I think you'll all agree that it is better to teach a child to be a good person. And good can be defined as 6Cs. Good also, in this case, is skilled in human qualities. And if at the margin they cannot do their mathematics or their English or whatever it might be, I mean, obviously they must know how to read so they can be world citizens. But it's much more important to make a world citizen out of these kids. We are creating the circumstances. We are not telling them, it's good to have this character or that character virtue. We are not telling them that. The process is bringing that out in the children. I think a lot of these things are inherent. Little children do not have prejudices. For example, it's the parents and the adults who say, oh, don't sit next to that child. He's from that faith or another faith or whatever. It happens in many countries. Or there's a poor kid. Don't make friends with that poor kid. So there are these prejudices, but children don't have them. They don't see that you're in rags or you're in riches. They're just children. They enjoy being with each other. I think they are richer in terms of values. We just need to keep them intact. We need to bring them out. They're like, a little plant that needs to become a tree. They're already, the seed is in them. It's giving them that water, that nourishment to bring forth. And at the margin, that is far more important, I think you'll agree, than any academic skill you can have. There's so many people with huge academic potential. For example, the young man who brought Singapore's economy down in one stroke, through his smart aleck tactics of how he created a virus for the computer system and literally brought an economy to its knees. There are people who are devising evil things. So your knowledge is going to evil. What's the point of that? Right? It's better that you're a good person. Would a mother like a child who's really loving, caring towards her, or a child who's really smart, never cares for her? Which would you like, right? So I think we need to, in the balance, I think if ALfA proves its mettle on being able to nurture the 6 C's, it's a good system.
Yeah.
The rest of it is icing on the cake.
Yeah, wow. Really good point. And I love especially what you were saying, that kids actually have these qualities innately in them, right? So it's not so much even that we are teaching them these qualities. It's not that we're inculcating them, but rather we're not squishing them. And that's the problem, is the traditional education is often squishing the creativity, squishing the critical thinking. If you look at a 4-year-old, before they go to school, they're probably more creative than a 12-year-old who's gone through 6 years of traditional education.
This is well known. This is well known. You can have I think, observation shows that a child of 12 can beat any adult on chess. Almost always, if you put an average number of people, the children will do better in so many ways. And you're totally right. And this is proven by data.
Wow. Yeah. So it's more a matter of getting out of the way and helping those kids to nurture those skills, right? And just avoiding the traditional education system, which really straitjackets you. It beats you, if you're a round peg, beats you into the square hole just by repeating the answers, squishing your creativity and your critical thinking. So I'm enjoying the comments coming in. Shriyam said they can be best taught in an integrated manner when they are unknowingly developing those skills. That way the skills last them forever. Absolutely, right? So it's not like, okay, this is a module on creativity, let's all learn how to be creative. No, we're learning creativity through other modules, right? And we're doing it unknowingly. Yeah, learning by doing and practicing in the class. The teachers demonstrating the 6 C's themselves. Absolutely. As teachers, we are role models, right? So the way we behave with each other, with our students, they're learning not so much from what we speak, they're learning from what we do, from who we are. The ALfA technique effortlessly includes all the 6 C's. The children are developing these skills through interaction with each other and learning on their own. Beautiful. I just would like to highlight some of these chats on the bottom of the screen too, please. They're really good. Through cognitive engagement and creating a comfortable and trusting environment where the child feels free to explore and express feelings without the fear of being judged. Very true, very true. How often do we encourage our kids to share their feelings with us, right? In a non-judgmental context.
But they don't need to share with us.
Not even with us.
They confide with each other much more. And they get empathy and they get loving and caring response. Children are more empathetic. They're naturally loving. And you see it in little babies. You have them in a pre-primary classroom. You'll often see if one child starts crying, they all start crying in empathy. If one child is sleeping, the others are stroking that child, putting the baby to bed. They are so much more empathetic. We just need to learn from them.
Absolutely, absolutely. True. I'm seeing earlier a comment from Shatarupa, which is quite a good way to put it. I haven't thought of this one before. Clearly, they cannot be taught, they have to be caught. It rhymes, it's beautiful. Yeah, the 6 C's cannot be taught, they must be caught through classroom discussions, explorative sessions, setting an example as an adult in the classroom, etc. So we saw that in some of the videos. The teachers were doing role plays, they were modeling those values themselves, and then the kids were doing the same. So I think we're in agreement here that ALfA, obviously literacy and numeracy are important, right? We want every child to learn how to read and write and do basic maths. But beyond that, we want to develop 21st century citizens, and they need much more than just reading, writing, and arithmetic. The beauty of ALfA is, in the traditional approach, the idea is, okay, well, you've got to get the basics right first. You've got to memorize your timetables before you do anything interesting. You've got to learn the alphabet before you're reading something creative.
Very
right?
good point.
So whereas ALfA is actually integrating those two things, right? It's not like the basics come first and then the 6 C's. The 6 C's are integrated into the very basics. They're learning to read and write, yes, but they're also learning so much more in the same process. So that's the beauty of it. And I think that's what you'll experience as you implement it in your own classroom, right? Children are learning reading, writing, arithmetic. They're learning these 3 R's, but they're also learning the same 6 C's in the same process.
So it's 3 R's, 6 C's, low to no cost, low to no carbon. That is the equation for the moment. Also, world citizenship, creating a peaceful and harmonious world in the future. Absolutely. One that's collaborative, not competitive.
Absolutely. Now, we were talking just earlier about how we can give feedback to our students, right? How we can encourage them rather than praising them. So I want to just pull up a slide. We want to talk briefly about how we can take feedback from our class, because this is one of the key roles of the teachers, as alluded to earlier, right? If I can just pull up my slide here, please. Looking at how we can take feedback from the class, because the traditional approach, of course, is to give an exam, right? Now, exams are probably the worst enemy of the 6 C's. They're all about competition. They're all about mugging up. They're not about creativity or collaboration at all. So what's a better way? Instead of an exam is one way to get feedback of learning levels, but it's a very slow way. It's a very laborious way. The teacher will need to mark all those copies, and then it'll be 2 or 3 weeks by the time the kid get the marks back, and then by then they've moved on anyway, right? So we need a much swifter, easier way of getting feedback, a way of getting immediate feedback, right? And why? Why? We want to know what the kids are learning, right? Whether they're learning, who is struggling with the learning. We need to understand all this so that we know whether or not to move on to the next module or whether to reteach the concept. So if I just move forwards, next slide, please. Just moving forwards here. So yeah, basically we're looking at how much the students are learning, which parts they're not understanding, and who is having trouble in understanding. These are the key things we need to understand when we're taking feedback from our class. So how can we do this in a way that's swift and instant, very effective? Well, one way would be we can ask a question of the class and say, let's have a show of hands, right? But this will not be as effective, because if I have a show of hands, I'm only going to ask 1 or 2 kids to answer. I'm going to say, okay, so you tell me what the answer is. But there's many kids who will not be raising their hands, and we don't know whether they know or not. And in fact, they're not engaged in that process. They're not even trying. So what's an alternative? Well, if I move on to the next slide, please. I'm looking at a very simple approach, right? We can just ask a simple question with several options. We can give those options to the students, and we can say, okay, anybody who thinks option A, raise your hand. Those who think option B, raise your hand. Option C, and so forth. And this way, the whole class is participating. Now, obviously, you need to normalize the students ahead of time. You need them to know that it's not a competition, right? It's not like, okay, I'm just going to see whether my friend is raising their hand and copy them, right? It's not about getting the right answer. It's just about trying your best, seeing what you think. And this way, the teacher can very quickly get a sense of how many kids in the class are understanding a certain concept. And that's crucial, because depending on the result of that, you can either, if everybody is pretty clear on that, you can move on to the next modules. If a few kids are struggling to understand, then you can invite them to make fresh pairs, right? Supposing half the class is understanding, half the class is not, you can ask them to make pairs with each other to teach each other. And if the majority are struggling to understand, then maybe it's time to do the same concept in a different way, okay? For example, supposing in English, we're looking at this noun, verb, noun sentence. They're not getting that. Maybe it's time to try a different game, a different activity, which will help with that. So depending on the results of the feedback, that can inform you as you move forward as to what your next step is. So I'd like to show you in my next slide an example of this, please. So we're talking about literacy. So let me ask you this question, right? What does juxtapose mean? It's a bit of a fancy word. Please don't Google it. If you don't know, that's totally fine, right? The point is not so much what it actually means. The point is this is just an example of how to get instant feedback. So I want you to respond in the chat. I put 4 options there, right? Option A, to get confused. Option B, to make a copy. Option C, to compare and contrast. Option D, to cooperate closely. Okay, I've made alliterate. They're all kind of C options. To get confused, to make a copy, to compare, to cooperate. So what does juxtapose mean? Please don't Google it, right? That spoils the fun. Don't copy your friend. Just take a guess. What do you think juxtapose means? And respond in the chat box. Option A, B, C, or D. So supposing I'm the teacher and I've just taught a module, and juxtapose was one of the vocabulary words. Now I want to check, well, did my class understand that or not? Do I need to reteach it? Do I need to make fresh pairs? This is one way I can get instant feedback, right? In the classroom context, I would be maybe saying, okay, everybody who thinks option A, raise your hand. Those who think option B, raise your hand. Another way would be the kids could have slates or a piece of paper, and they write their answer, right? Option B, option D, whatever. They write their answer, and then all at once, all the kids reveal. They show their answer. So then I get a very quick sense of who's got it, who hasn't. So I'm looking for your responses in the chat. Let's see. Option A, option D. Lots of people are saying option A. That looks like the majority. To get confused. Aditi said overlapping each other. I'm not sure what that means. That's a different option. Option E. Some are saying option C, some are saying option D. Okay, that's good. I'm glad. It looks like I've chosen a tricky enough question that we're getting a few different responses. That's excellent. Aditi can't see the presentation. I'm not sure why. I think the presentation is clear. I think it's clear for most people. Okay, a lot of people now are saying C. Okay, some are saying D. Great. Okay, I'm going to show you on the next slide. Thanks for engaging with that. Thanks for responding. It does in fact mean to compare and contrast. So that was option C. Congratulations. Now, of course, we're not really concerned about who got the right answer. It's not an exercise of judging or comparing students. We're not juxtaposing students here. Instead, we're actually talking about just a quick process for me as a teacher, for you as a teacher, to get a sense of your classroom, what proportion of kids have understood, right? Because this way you can either move forward to the next modules, or you can do the same concept with a different activity, or you can just make fresh pairs and they can teach each other. So it's a very quick and easy way, a low stakes form of feedback. We can call this a diagnostic feedback. It's not like there's pressure on the students to get it right. It's just a very quick and fun way to do it. So let's move forwards then and look at our final video for the day. So in this final video, we're just looking at the basic steps of an ALfA classroom. So we've already been looking at each of these different ingredients. We've been looking about how to normalize the class, how to do a demo, how the kids work in pairs. We've been looking at the different steps of the process. Now it's time to bring it all together to understand how it flows together. And as this video is coming up, I would like to
As we start our journey to ALfA Classroom, children will learn by discovering facts which will empower them and boost their self-confidence. Okay, so let's have an energizer. Right. Right hand up, left hand up, right hand down, left hand down. Twist your body. Right hand on your head, left hand on your head. Okay, now right hand on your mouth. Okay, now please settle down.
I'm giving you the chits, all right? Keeping it here. You'll pick one chit and go back to your places. As we are doing random pairing.
The new norms are working in random pairs to accelerate their learning, asking questions to enhance their critical thinking, and taking turn to instill a sense of character building.
Children, today we are going to learn something new. This is tense, okay? What is this? Clap is tense and one snap is once, okay? So, this is 20, 30, yes, and this is 22, okay. Okay, now Agrim and Abdul, can you come forward? Yes. Can you show how this will be done? Okay, try. Okay, Agrim. Now your turn.
53. Good.
Well done.
I will do clappers math and you get the number. Okay. 31. It's your turn. Okay. 32. Correct.
Done. Now you will do. Come on, do it with your partners. Go back to your place.
Wow. Well, that was really nice to see, again, that classroom footage. And I think that gives us a good sense of the overall steps of the ALfA classroom, right? Moving from starting with an energizer and the teacher normalizing the class, meaning setting up the new rules of the game, right? How to work in pairs, how to take turns, then giving a demonstration, right? This video was showing some numeracy work, but in literacy we saw earlier today, the teacher was using a puppet and they were acting with each other, right? They also call a pair forwards to show the process, and then the kids are in pairs and they're doing whatever activity it is. So it's a very simple flow, and it's easy for kids to then, when they're working in pairs, to generate many more questions for each other and take those activities much further. So that's the ALfA process in a nutshell, right? Now, as we move to the end of our session, we just want to show you a very quick recap of the various topics we've discussed today. It's been super interactive. I've really enjoyed your sharing your thoughts in the chat. So if there's any five things that you take away from today, these are maybe the 5 key points which we'd like to emphasize. So Samvida ma'am, would you like to dwell on the first point? We're talking about children working in pairs. Pairs are made frequently and randomly. So why paired learning, and why are we changing the pairs frequently?
Okay. First thing, we've just seen that 6C's video. It inculcates 6C, and it also helps students solidify their knowledge and skills by teaching each other. Because one student is tutoring the other in a pair, and this can result in better learning and better retention. Because if one has to teach the other, one must fully understand the concept himself or herself.
That's a really good point. So in the process of teaching, I'm actually revising the concept myself. I'm understanding it at a deeper level. So that's a really good point. The second point here, we're talking about teacher. The role of the teacher is not to teach per se, but rather to guide the children in through the prompts provided in the learning materials. Sunita, do you want to unpack this magical phrase, teachers don't teach?
Okay, I want to talk about before that picking up from what Samvida said regarding the process itself. There's some repetition. She mentioned the word, and there are many levels at which there's repetition. So the first time when the teacher introduces the concept, not the explanation per se, I understand what I'm expected to do. I'm going to have to struggle to find that out. That's the first time. Second time, when I'm explaining to you and you're explaining to me. Second division. Third division, when I'm making questions for you, you're making questions for me. Fourth time, if I go to another pair and explain to them, right? Fifth time, when I'm making some kind of a diagram out of it, like a mind map or something like that. There are so many repetitions when I'm doing the activity. When I'm creating an extension activity of my own. There are 5, 6, 7, 8 revisions in the process, and they happen really, really quickly. So that's a powerful thing to happen, because repetition is consolidating that concept for me. Regarding the role of a teacher, and teachers not supposed to teach, how is that possible? So I think we can see it like this, that if your children are learning, why will you teach? Right? There's no need to teach. You come in at the very end if they cannot at all figure things out, rather than at the very beginning to teach, because you're taking all the joyfulness out of it. If I teach you and then I say, okay, this is how you add, this is how you do sentence making. Now everybody, do these 5 sentences in your workbook or in your notebook. There's no joy. There's no joy of discovery. So why will you teach? When there's no joy, there's no learning, there's less learning. I think it's now an old and archaic idea to teach, that we learn by teaching. Now, how did it all start? Let me just quickly look at that. When in the 19th century industrialization phase, you needed to very quickly train the children to grow up as scientists or as researchers or as technicians. You wanted all of them in a room, teach them that particular concept. Everyone then gets a horrendous test at the end of it. Those who survive it do well. They become the white collar, the other become the blue collar. It was very brutal. It was not about the individual child. It was not about personalized learning. It was not about bringing out the best in everyone. It was to fulfill the needs of the 21st century. At that time,
19th century, right?
Sorry, I meant 1945.
Yeah.
No, I meant the 20th century.
Yes.
Of the 20th century, 1940s, 1930s, 1940s in particular.
Yeah.
So when you look at how the textbook came to be and how the blackboard came to be. Blackboard is an invention of something like 1836. Yeah, so some teacher, and he's well known, I'm forgetting his name momentarily, in New York, decided that let's create a board on which I can write down what the children can understand, and that became the first blackboard, and it was like a revolution. Everybody had the blackboard, but so many hundred years later or decades later, we're still married to the teaching from the front. It may have become a blackboard, might have become a whiteboard, but we're still teaching from the front. We're still stuck to it. At that time, the textbook was invented not for the children because there was not enough money. So it was not copied and printed for everyone. It was one manual for the teacher. So the teacher would use it to dictate, would tell you, from this, everybody, this is how you draw a diagram. They would draw it from the book and everybody would copy it. Why are we still doing that? There's no reason. Everybody can have a book. Now we're talking about books. Here we're talking about booklets. We're talking about maybe not even a booklet, just on the screen. And children just look at it. They're not facing the screen. They're facing each other. Just look at the screen and face each other, right? And number of pages. We're talking about booklets, meaning, let's say for English or for Hindi, the booklets are like 28 to 32 pages. Let's say 32 pages. If Tom and I are working together, we don't need two books. Because actually, if we have two books, we're going to look at our own. We're never going to collaborate. So there's only one book. That means that each one of us is using 16-page equivalent. Imagine if this is passed on to another class because of timetabling to another class, through timetabling, we have 8 pages. Another class is 4 pages. It's ridiculously next to nothing. You laminate this book, use it for several years, right?
Incredible.
So this is where we are at. So teacher should not teach, number one. Number two, the textbooks we do not need. We don't want to waste paper. We don't need workbooks. 180-page workbooks in many states are using as a supplement to the textbook. So textbook is 120, 150, 180 pages. Then you have a workbook. That's another 180 pages. We're talking about 300 to 400 pages to learn literacy. And then on top of that, storybooks and this and that. But just to learn the literacy skills, reading and writing, they're using 400 pages plus of printed material, every single child. That is such a colossal loss of the forest, right? So here we're saying, look, we don't need that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really interesting to hear the historical perspective as to how we came to this teacher-centric, teacher-led industrial education system. And sure, maybe that was appropriate in the 19th century when we need to roll out universal education and we just needed people to work in the factories. But today, we don't have many factory jobs. We need people who are creative thinkers, critical thinkers, who are world citizens. So that form of education is long outdated, right? And we need more than just facelift. We don't need to just change from the blackboard to a whiteboard or to a smartboard. We need a more fundamental revolution in the way education is conducted. And so I think that teachers don't teach, right? That maybe sums it up really well. So looking at the other points, we're talking about the teacher's role is still important, right? The teacher is there to normalize the class, to demonstrate the process. We've seen a lot of that, the teacher using puppets to demonstrate, the teacher doing a role play with another teacher or with a student. So demonstrating the process so the kids can do it themselves. Then kids are making their own questions for each other, right? It's not just questions are there from the textbook and you're just solving those questions. The kids are making many more questions for each other. And finally, as we were just discussing, the teacher is not just praising or reprimanding some kids, right? Rather, they're encouraging the whole class. So they're not comparing, not juxtaposing the kids against each other, right, which would foster competition. Instead, they're using a language of encouragement, which helps everybody. So if there's any takeaways from today, I hope these are some of the key points, right, which come across. And I'm sure as you implement this, as you try this out in your classroom, you will also feel the power of the ALfA approach. So I just want to remind you that there's a quiz coming up, right? Once we finish this session very shortly, you can go, we're posting the link now in the chat box, right? So don't go to it just yet, but when the session finishes, please go to the quiz. It's a short multiple choice question quiz. At the end of the quiz, there's the chance, there's kind of an opinion survey. So we want to hear your feedback about the training, whether it was effective, not, what things we can do to improve it further. So we want to hear your thoughts. Please, when you're signing in for the quiz, please use your email address, because we'll be able to compile the list of your emails and we'll be able to send you the materials if you wish. If you want to use these in your classroom, we'll be sending you the link to the e-learning materials if you do well in the quiz. And you'll also be getting a certificate at the end of your quiz. So the link is there. I also want to share that quizzes is a very fun platform, right? We were just talking earlier about how to get feedback from our students, how to check their level of learning. Quizzes is one such platform which helps you to get that instant feedback and to easily analyze what proportion of kids were able to do this question or not. So Quizzes is offering a 3-month free trial for any participant of this training. So please do be in touch, reach out with Quizzes. If you enjoy the quiz, as I'm sure you will, and you find a useful platform, then give that a try. Use it in your own classroom as well. So with that, I just want to wrap it up by asking your questions, right? Any further questions you have from today's training, any further clarifications you'd like, and also if you could post one thing that you learned from today, which you're going to take tomorrow to your class and start implementing it. Because that's what it's all about. The videos are good, the discussions are good, but really ultimately it's all about action. So what action points you're taking from today's session, which you're going to go and try out tomorrow in your classroom?
Tomorrow is Saturday, so maybe Monday.
Maybe Monday. Tomorrow or Monday.
Yeah, tomorrow or Monday, right, exactly.
So I want to hear your thoughts in the chat box, please, your feedback about today's session. And while I'm waiting for your responses to come in, I want to also remind you there's several ways that we want your help in this whole process. So the most important, obviously, is to implement ALfA, start implementing ALfA in your own classroom, right? To experience that, please do share your photos and videos. Be in touch with us throughout. Share your photos and videos. And maybe the next training we do, we're going to use your classroom in our next videos. That would be terrific.
Let's ask how many people will say yes to trying out ALfA for the next 45 days. Put a yes. If you're not so sure, put a maybe. And if it's a no, please feel free to say no. How many of you will try out ALfA as you go out of this training into your classrooms? Yes, no, maybe.
Okay, we want to hear that. So in the chat box, if you can respond with a yes, maybe, or no, and also still with any questions from today's session and something that's going to impact your classroom practice. I see some people are having technical difficulties. Hopefully our team, I'm sure, is looking into that, checking the link. I think it should be working.
It's working.
Okay, so just try once again. Once you finish the session, you can do this quiz anytime. Yeah. So I want to also remind you, apart from implementing ALfA in your own classroom is obviously really important, as well as that, if you're joining us from a different state of India or a different country of the world, maybe you could go on our website, have a look. ALfA is available already in 30 languages, but we are looking to replicate it in many more. I'm just going to hold up to the camera some of the different languages. So like here we've got English, here there's Nepali, here there's Urdu, there's Maithili, there's Mizo. These are some Indian languages. We've also got, I think, Dutch, some international languages here. I don't even know what this is. I can't read it. But
let me see. Oh, this is
Kannada, is it?
Kannada.
Kannada. Yeah. So we've already got this wonderful resource in many languages, but we're looking to take it truly worldwide. So we need your help. If it's not available yet in your mother tongue, maybe you can be the person who will help us replicate it. and that's also quite a simple process, doesn't take too much effort. The same basic process of moving from picture to sound to word, which we saw throughout the session, that's the same process we'd use in your language as well. So final thing is, final way you can help us is we would love to run more such trainings. Online trainings are wonderful. Sometimes physical trainings are also important. We can't go everywhere ourselves physically. So if you're interested in joining us as a trainer, do reach out. We've got a form on our website. We've got our email address, our phone number. Please reach out if you would like to become an ALfA trainer. It's a very simple process. Anybody can do it. If you've tried implementing it, once you try implementing it in your classroom, you'll have your own stories, you'll have your own photos and testimony, and you'll be able to inspire many, many more people. So I'm turning now to the chat box to see what sort of responses you're giving. And it looks like an overwhelming yes. That's great. Lots of people are going to try ALfA. Fantastic. Now to the chat box to see what sort of responses you're giving. Link is being reposted. Okay, that's great. So I hope that's working for you. Some people didn't get the certificate yesterday. Okay, no worries. Do it again today. Sure you can get the certificate. And I want to hear your thoughts as well, more broadly on what part. Please be specific in your feedback as well. We've got the yes, that's great. Which parts of this training were most useful for you? What did you take away from it? Any suggestions for us to improve? I want to hear these thoughts in the chat, please. And while I'm waiting for more responses, I want to hand over now for kind of closing thoughts from Dr. Sunita.
Yes, I'd just like to express my gratitude to everyone for being here, for being an active part of the training, for your questions, for your interactions, and for your being here and learning with us. It's also a learning for us, because every time we venture forth, we find another angle or another way to think about something, and it's triggered sometimes also by what you say and do. I'd like to also express much gratitude to Ma'am Manjeet Batra and Ma'am Sangeeta Banerjee of Gomti Nagar Campus 2, and also their coordinators for grades 1 and 2, for grade 1 Ritika, and for grade 2 Smita. And to all the teachers who ventured out of their comfort zones and tried out ALfA from November onwards. And pre and post test, they also took their little babies to do this pre-test and post-test. We have the results from them as well. I want to thank also Samvida ma'am for being my co-convener for MOOT and for the Policymakers Conclave coming up tomorrow. I invite you all to come and join. Tomorrow again, you can just go to the fln.dignityeducation.org and you'll see all the links there. And to come into those exactly the same 3 time slots, 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., 2 p.m. to 5:30 p.m., and then again from 9 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. So that's to cover the world. And this is thanks to Tom. We were struggling how to do this, and Tom, the genius, came up with this idea of 3 slots. So the 3 slots are working fine, and we are seeing people last night, for example, from Peru and from Latin America. And from the US as well. A lot of people from the US joined last night. I want to thank Ma'am Samvida, as I said, she's a co-convener, and along with her coordinator for the primary grades, Sharmishta, and 2 of her teachers who've been involved in doing this work wholeheartedly. And then I want to thank my parents, Dr. Jagdish and Dr. Mrs. Bharti Gandhi, for giving me this opportunity to host this, at City Montessori School, and also my sister, Professor Geeta Kingdon, for her great support in this whole mission. It takes 2 to tango, and I'm very fortunate to have my family support this work. I'm spending a lot of my time, a good amount of my time doing this ALfA work or literacy work, and I've been doing so since I came back to India and started working with Devi Sansthan in 2014. I'd like to thank the team of R.K. Singh, who is the head of the technology department, the media department, and the the computer department of City Montessori School, and his entire team, who has been taking the videos, who has been mixing the video and the PPTs and all these things that are necessary. I want to thank all these wonderful people. They've worked in shifts through the 2 days so far, and will be also here tomorrow. And then we're coming back again on the 14th and 15th. And those of you who know others who might be interested in training in Hindi, please invite them. Please share this program with others regardless. You can go back to the same YouTube channel. On YouTube, you can look for Devi Sansthan. And when you see Devi Sansthan, you will see, you'll get playlists and you'll get the videos. So do subscribe to it, because that way you are getting notifications of our next events that are taking place. In addition, Facebook, and you've got those 8 live channels on which we have come during these last 2 days of MOOT. The last session of the day, of course, not to forget, is 9 o'clock tonight. That'll be numeracy. So we've done all together between yesterday and today, and the last session of today, we'll have done 3 sessions of literacy and 3 sessions of numeracy. And I think we have data coming in that, the very first session yesterday was watched by some 2,000 people. People come, people go, and then they refer to each other. So that's pretty encouraging. And then between all the sessions, we're expecting some 10,000 people will have touched upon this for this round of ALfA. 14th and 15th, we'll get more. ALfA is being offered on a rolling basis, which means that if you demand it, we are there. So please ask your governments if they would like to have ALfA training for your teachers, because we would want to have it as massive, open, online training. And massive means, of course, not just a handful of people, but a lot of people. And we can also let you know when a big event is happening, so you can bring your smaller group also. So it's not stopping that happening, but we want to make sure that we are doing the MOOT on a rolling basis. Okay, and then I want to thank also my team of, they're all my team actually, but I want to thank Tom, the youth volunteer and master trainer at Devi Sansthan. He has worked for 4.5 years, almost 5 years with Devi Sansthan. And I'm so, pleased that we could retain his interest. Right now, youth don't want to do this kind of thing. They want to be, in Mackenzie or Pete Marwick, and they're doing amazing things. And he's so very capable. He could be anywhere in the world, literally. And he's chosen to live in a slum. I think it's just the most admirable thing one can imagine. Then I would like to thank Jonathan Hakim, who is a teacher from the US. Tom is from Australia. Jonathan is from the US, and he has also been working with me for many years, in fact, since 2014, on and off. And then he went back to the US and is back again to India. And right now he's working on a book on ALfA, which I'm working with him on. Tom, all of us will be working on. We've come out with the book, Tom, myself, and some of our other colleagues like Mashood Alam Bhatt, who is at Harvard University this year doing his master's in education policy, and also Jonathan Hakim. So together we've come up with this book called Disruptive Literacy, published by Bloomsbury, India, and it is available on Amazon. So these are, obviously everything, happens with a collection of everyone helping. So somebody sows the seed, somebody waters that seed, somebody makes sure the soil is right, somebody makes sure it's facing the right way. So it is always teamwork. And a lot of, I feel very blessed that all the schools that have been trying it out, including the government, I should say my gratitude to Director General for School Education, Vijay Kiran Anand, who gave me this opportunity to take the mission forward into 15 districts of Uttar Pradesh, when it was only given to me one district by Anita Karwal, the Secretary of MOE. So I'm grateful to him, to Jasjeet Kaur, the DM of Shamli, who's now moved to Sultanpur. I think this is how it will spread. One person gets impressed, then they take it to the next district. We're only talking about a short history. We started in 2014, but we were doing adult literacy. We were doing students as leaders of change. We were doing many other versions of what is today called ALfA. There were baby steps of it early on. And now today, whatever we are doing, refined again. It's like mobile version 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. So we're going to continue to refine it. So all the people who are getting involved, all the schools, government schools, teachers, and teachers of private schools, associations. I want to also thank our collaborators and partners across the world. We have many, many partners. For example, All Africa Students Union, which has membership of 54 countries of Africa. We have FAWE, Federation of African Women Educationists. So like that, many organizations have joined hands. I want to thank SBI Foundation. They have supported us in the making of the literacy portion of the Literacy Now app, which allows us to expand our work with the students as leaders of change, students finding somebody and teaching them. Student volunteers. I want to show also my gratitude to M3M Foundation, who have supported our very first project in Shamli. And we are very grateful that they were a part of this journey and at the very beginning with us. And very beginning, phase 1 and 2, they have been supporting the schools up to 290 schools in Shamli, went from 20 schools to 290. So grateful to a lot of people, to the media department. I want to also say thank you to Priyanka, who's our media person, to Sammy here, who's doing the social media thing. I'm thankful to Joanne, who's come from Chicago, to all the board members from 22 countries who are part of the Global Advisory Committee, to the organizing committee of our events. And that is, some youth volunteers like Tom and Samuel from Africa. And there are committee members like Inger from Norway. Joanne, of course, is a part of that. Robert Thorne, and also our Professor Fred Mednick. Without them, I don't think we would be able to pull such an event together. They give us courage, they give us moral support, they give us physical support, they give us a lot of ideas. And of course, Nisa, one of our student volunteers is Nisa, who's studying masters at University of Belgium. So it is really, really good to have this team. My own core team, Manish Srivastav on technologies side, Saurabh Kumar on the academic side, heading the academics. We've got Sumita ma'am, who has been working with us on many fronts, Milita ma'am, Yusra, Mr. Mayank, who is heading the team that is inviting people from India, and all the members that work with him, Vivekji, and a number of people under them. So thank you very much indeed, everyone, and for being here, and a big namaste from me. And please keep joining and spreading the word and become champions of a new and breakaway methodology called ALfA. And over to Samvida ma'am for the final words.
It has indeed been wonderful to have all of you with us today, and I'm especially grateful for your incredible level of interaction in the chat. I always have my doubts about online trainings. I think interaction is really the key part of a training. If it's one way, then obviously it's not holding true to the principles of ALfA. So it's been terrific how much you've engaged through the chat. And I think it's in some ways it's been even better than a physical training, because we've been able to get that instant feedback from you and respond to that. We've been able to watch so many interesting videos, to get a lot of good classroom footage. So it's been really terrific to spend this time with you. And I hope to see you again very shortly in some other event. Hopefully some of you will be here tomorrow as well in the Policymakers Conference. So over to you now, Sandhya.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Dr. Sunita. It's been a pleasure being with all of you today. Thank you for your patience. It's been an honor to be among such accomplished individuals and to be able to hear and present perspectives. Your continued support can give us wings. Thank you so much. Heartfelt gratitude to each one of you present online and offline, F2F, in this boardroom. And thank you. We bid you adieu with the closing song, My God Will Turn It Around. And I'm sure he will turn it around for all of us.
Look for the good in everything. Look for the people who will set your soul free. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good in everyone. Look for the good in everyone. always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good in everyone. People done gone crazy. People done gone mad. People done forgot the superpowers we all have. We were born to love, not hate. We can decide our fate and look for the good in everyone and celebrate all our mistakes if there's a silver lining. You still have to find it, find it, find it. Look for the good in everything. Look for the people who will set your soul free. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good in everyone. Everyone needs sunshine. Everyone needs rain. Everyone is carrying around some kind of pain. I see who you are. You're just like me. I see you're searching for a purpose, guided by a dream. I see who you are. I'm just like you. I get lost sometimes and I forget what I came here to do. I keep on trying. When it gets frightening, look for the good in everything. Look for the people who will set your soul free. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good. Look for the good. Look for the good in everyone. Everyone is nature. Everyone is God. Everyone is love and light and vibration. Look for the good. Look for the good. Everyone gets mad sometimes and maybe they should. Look for the good. Look for the good. Yeah, look out for all the heroes in your neighborhood. Look for the good. Look for the good. Life sure would be sweeter if everybody would. Look for the good in everything. Look for the people who will set your soul free. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good in everyone. Look for the good in everything. Look for the good. Look for the people who will set your soul free. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good. Look for the good. Look for the good in everyone.